Hello everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 20 of Attack on Titan Season 3, Part 2, That Day. So, that's a funny title, because that's the title of episode 2, which was basically about Shiga and Sheena and when Wall Maria fell. So funny that we're going back to that same title for this episode. I don't think Isayama's done that before, so can't be any significance to that at all, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this episode. Last episode, I loved episode 19, but it was just the carrot dangling. It was just Isayama being like, are you ready? And so now I feel like we're actually getting into the basement in this episode, or at least I hope we are. I have a lot of notes from y'all from the last episodes, from episode 18 and from episode 16 on YouTube. Oh my gosh. And from episode 15, I guess, too, there's just been a lot of notes. Just a lot of notes. And so some of them are related more to Bertolt and Marlowe, and I'm not going to talk about those in the intro here. This is probably going to be a little bit longer than usual, but I'm not going to talk about Bertolt and Marlowe in this opening part. I'm going to save those comments for afterwards when we get towards the end of the discussion, then I'll go over those. But I do want to note a few things about Armin and Erwin, because R.I.P. Armin and Erwin, R.I.P. dudes, but also about this episode specifically. Christopher Peterson noted that the OP covered basically everything leading up to episode 18, and now, mysteriously, the OP isn't talking about the last 4 episodes. Surely that means there'll be nothing of consequence happen in them. Surely that's what that means. That got me a little nervous. I was like, there isn't really anything in the OP about these last 4 episodes. Isayama, that seems intentional. But also, I also want to know, Dingy and Pochita noted the meaning behind Midnight Sun, which is the episode that just came out on Patreon. And the idea that Isayama in an interview said that the sky is bright even in a dark night, meaning that it's still like the moon, the sun, bright like the sun does not set. In other words, Erwin's death means the sun has set, but it still feels like the sun has never gone away. It's like, So it's the idea that the sun is still there. Armin is still there to carry on Erwin's mission. Erwin's mission is going to be carried on, but the world's a little bit dimmer without him. I want to note that PS commented that it might not have been a bad thing that Erwin didn't get the Titan powers, because PS was like, Erwin has been known to sacrifice people to get whatever he wants. Do we want to give that man the power of an atomic bomb? And I was like, that's a good point. But I think at that point, Erwin was at the basement. Would he have used the colossal Titan powers to blow everything up? We don't know. It's the big what if scenario. I really hope there's a fanfic out there that somebody's wrote that deals with the alternate universe of what if they chose Erwin instead of Armin. I wonder if someone's wrote that. I can't look up fanfiction right now. There's too many spoilers. But when I'm all caught up, I definitely am going to look for that and be like, I wonder if somebody's wrote that. I bet they have. Right? So don't send me any fanfic links yet. I don't want any spoilers. So I'm not going to look at any until I'm fully caught up. But I've put a little pin back there for that. Jason T. Fry noted the concept of a hero sacrificing for others instead of oneself. And that's a pretty big universal theme that's been established in this series that I really like. So a lot of people noted that Armin's death has been foreshadowed since way back in season 1. And I told everybody in the comments that said that, I was like, yeah, there's a part of me that kind of sensed that foreshadowing, but I always thought it was like a red herring. I always thought I was like, oh, Armin's not going to die. He's one of the main 3. He's not going to die. That's just a red herring. That's just to make us feel like, oh. And then episode 17 happened, and I was like, maybe they weren't red herrings. Maybe Isayama was foreshadowing, So Nuclear Gandhi noted about how Aaron's resolve to kill Reiner and Bertolt is basically like Reiner and Bertolt's resolve to kill humanity. Yeah, at this point, both Aaron and Reiner, and you could have included Bertolt in that, they viewed killing these specific individuals and getting the coordinate, in the case of Reiner and Bertolt, to be the only means of victory. And it's like the only way to achieve their dreams. It's like interesting that we're getting those parallels. Moth noted that I didn't know this. Those of you that have read the manga, I am sorry. Because Moth noted y'all had to wait between the events of episode 17 and the events of episode 18. Y'all had to wait 2 months? 2 months? 60 days to find out if Armin died or not? That's torture. I think there's been one big gap in story like that with One Piece that I can remember Oda left off for 2 months. I was reading One Piece at the time and I was like, Oda, are you kidding me? And it was torturous to wait and see what happened next. It was sheer torture. So I cannot imagine waiting between the events of it. Was like if I had watched episode 17 and had to wait 2 months to watch episode 18, like just cut off right there and then. That would be awful. So I'm sorry y'all had to do that. Those of you that read the manga, I would give you all a medal for suffering through that. But Moth also notes, I really love this description of Armin's eyes are like a sea storm. Moth writes they're like a quiet storm, a quote unquote easy underestimated in his destruction. I was like, oh, that's so perfect because he's the colossal titan now. It's perfect. So, and Bertolt's eyes were not blue, but they kind of had that like stormy quality to them. So like a tranquil, quiet storm. I liked that. I like that Moth described Aaron's eyes as an endless spring of rage. Feels appropriate. And then Ackerman's are like beasts. And I'm like, yeah. Which is fitting that Levi fought the Beast Titan. I was like, fitting. It's all fitting. But I love the idea of Armin's eyes being like a sea storm. That's so freaking cool. SE, I'm going to save your comment for last here. Christopher Peterson also noted that Zeke and Aaron's powers are not the same, seemingly. That Zeke can control titans, but it doesn't seem like there's not that burst of lightning, seemingly, that we saw run across Ymir, Reiner, and Bertolt during that moment. When Aaron used his powers back in episode 12 of season 2, there was that bolt of lightning that struck through. Kind of like when Historia and them use their powers on Aaron. So I find that interesting. That seems like that's the coordinate power versus Zeke's power, but we don't quite know the difference between them, right? I just thought that was an interesting observation. And then in the end of things, Sagnorm noted that Erwin's dream started to make him regret, which goes against what he told Levi not to do in No Regrets. And I love that, Sag. I love that concept that Erwin, his dream, towards the end of his life, he was starting to regret what his dream was making him do. He was starting to regret the decisions he had been making of sacrificing all those people. And that ties to the Mountain of Corpses. It ties to him telling Levi, like, look at our comrades. Like, Erwin was starting to have regrets about what he was doing. And he couldn't make a decision anymore. He couldn't make the decision to go through with it because he was regretting what it was costing him. And that's kind of why he wanted Levi to help him make that decision. And I think that's really, really interesting. And if you contrast that, I would add on to Sagnorm's comment there that Armin doesn't regret his decision. In the very end of episode 17, by the end of episode 16, Erwin is regretting his dream and he's regretting his decisions. And Levi has to come in and help him make that ultimate choice to give up on your dream and die. In Armin's case, by the end of it, Armin gives up on his dream, but he doesn't have any regrets. He knows that he's doing it for the sake of humanity and he's sacrificing himself to save others. The concept of a hero that Jason T. Fry is talking about. So I think that's all really, really cool. And then Lucas Santos noted that Atsushi's VA is young Grisha in this. I'm like, that's so cool. We just got Akutagawa from Bungo Stray Dogs as Flock. And now we have Atsushi from Bungo Stray Dogs. His VA is playing young Grisha. I'm like, cool. I really like that. Jason T. Fry also noted, and I kind of hate you for this, Jason, but noted that Levi said in No Regrets, the one to kill Erwin will be me. And in the end, Levi's the one that basically kills Erwin, so cool. I read that comment, was like, well, shit. That sucks. Isayama knows exactly what he's doing, right? Right? So that made me feel a lot sadder, so thanks, Jason. But the last thing I want to comment on before we start this episode, and I'm nearly at 10 minutes, is SE commented about the game Shogi. Shogi. And I don't know Shogi. I know chess. I'm from the US. We play chess. There's not a lot of people that play Shogi where I'm at. Shogi or Shogi. I think it's Shogi. Shogi. I think of the J sound as a J, so Shogi, I think of G sound. But anyway, I'm going to call it Shogi. So if I'm wrong, forgive me. But In shogi, instead of chess, you can actually use the pieces that you take. You don't just take them off the board, so you gain control over them. And it's kind of like the Titan Shifter powers, that once you take over the enemy, you literally take them over and take their power. So in shogi, losing the queen is essentially losing the game because you've lost your most powerful piece. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe the Bertolt queen comparison isn't quite the same there. But in shogi, the king can also switch sides during the game, which I think is very interesting. And I'm going to keep that filed away in the back of my head. But the king can switch sides during the game. And Essie notes that Isayama back in 2014, nearly 8 years ago, back in 2014, Isayama seems pretty privy about shogi because they wrote a manga called The Killing Pawn, which is about collecting and winning with only the pawn. Or collecting... It says it's about winning the only pawn in the game, which is interesting, the killing pawn. And I find that interesting because if you think about it, I guess Armin might be the killing pawn in this case, right? Because he doesn't seem like he's a powerful piece, and then he becomes one. So I thought that was really interesting, Essie. I don't know a lot about shogi, and I may have to do some research between now and the recap about that to talk about it in the recap, because I have a feeling if Isayama is especially tied to that game and really likes it, and the strategy of it seems very fitting for Attack on Titan, I might be like, we need to talk about that in the recap. So I've got other notes on here, but they're not related to Erwin or Armin or Midnight Sun. They're really more related towards Bertolt and Marlowe and the Pack Mule Titan, as Nathan Hardy calls it. But yeah, that day, the idea that this episode is going to connect back to episode 2 of season 1, this whole season... It's all been going full circle, y'all. This whole season's all gone full circle, and I don't know. I just get that feeling. I've been waiting for answers since the start of the series. I put on Twitter the other day that I saw my brother 2 days ago, and he asked me, he was like, hey, where are you at on Attack on Titan? And I was like, well, I'm at the basement, but I haven't found out anything yet. And literally, because I have warned him, I was like, you cannot spoil me. I'm like, I want no spoilers. Do not say a word. And he's been like, okay, whatever. But the moment I said, I was like, I've reached the basement, but I haven't found anything out yet. He literally did this. He went, well, good luck with that. And that's all he did. And then he walked away. I was like, no. And he was like, I'm not saying another word. I was like, ah. So, But I've got my tea. I've got the tea so that Grisha can spill the tea. I was like, all right, Grisha, come on. Let's do this. Grisha, spill this tea. Let's tell us about your past. I'm ready. We ended the episode with Faye and him going outside the walls doing what they ain't supposed to do. So let's find this out, shall we? All right. So we are going to start episode 57, season 3, episode 20 of Attack on Titan. And we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1. I'll see y'all on the other side. When I wanted you to spill the tea, Grisha, I didn't mean the whole damn cup. Holy shit. I don't even know where to start. This episode was like the biggest bomb of exposition I think I've ever watched in a single episode, and it still wasn't boring. It was still interesting. There was so much that Isayama was like, I've been waiting to tell you this for 3 seasons. Here we go. And there's so much that's still, despite it all, despite the fact that everything, God, that season 2 ED may be my favorite. It may be my favorite because of how much it foreshadowed. Oh my God. I was like, this is a really cool ED. It gives away everything. Dinah. Okay. All right. Honesty check here. Way back in season 1, when I first cut my hair, episode 5, I think it was the Battle of Trost, somebody in the comments said, oh, hey, Dinah's reacting to Attack on Titan. And that comment, I read it and I was like, who the hell's Dinah? And somebody in the comments was like, no, Romania doesn't know that character yet. No. And I was like, okay. And they deleted the comment, I think. And so after that, I was like, okay, so there's a character named Dinah we're going to meet later on. Fine. Not only, shit. Oh my God. So Aaron. Whiteboard-kun, if there was ever a time for Whiteboard-kun, now's the time, because there's no way I'm getting through this episode without the help of Whiteboard-kun. What the fudge? Oh my god, where do we even start? Okay. Is my brain gonna melt in this episode? Surely not. There's been so much confirmed, so much confirmation, so much I was like, oh, we're finally getting these answers. Zeke is his son. Zeke and Aaron are brothers. Holy shit. And Zeke, dude's got some issues. Oh my god. Well, he ended up becoming a Titan anyway, though. So, next episode is clearly gonna tell us something, right? Something's gonna happen next episode, clearly. It has to, because to connect back to Zeke, it has to. Oh my god. Well, oh man. Well, I was like, we gotta update the list of the dead. The owl. Kruger the owl. Oh my god. As soon as Kruger held him down and shut him up from saying Dinah was royalty, I was like, shut the frick up. That's the owl. Okay. So episode 20, I've already given a toast to the Titan that killed Carla's mom, that was Dinah, but I'm going to put Dinah on here anyway, because technically Dinah became a Titan in this episode. I'm going to call that a death. And same way with Grease in this one too. And we don't know the name of that guy that was with Kruger, but holy cow, we get answers. We finally get answers. There is not a very long stretch between where Reiner and all of them are from and where it's just, you literally take a boat. You take a boat. They're on an island. The walls, it showed that wall scene in them, it looks so tiny, but it was like a big island off a coast of a continent. And the island has the walls inside of it, but it's oh my gosh, we're gonna have to draw this. I've waited for this episode this entire series. I've waited for all these answers, and it's finally here, but there's still more questions. There's so many thematic elements. This episode is like a dream come true for me, because it's just, I've waited for this, and we don't even have all the answers yet, but Kruger the owl, let me show you how it's done. Remember, this is how you do it. It's like, okay, so Kruger is gonna let Grisha eat him. That's gonna happen. Grisha's gonna become the owl. So Aaron has the power of the coordinate and the owl. Okay. So the owl, that's Kruger. So Kruger is obviously going to give his power to Grisha. Okay. But then how does Zeke become the Beast Titan? Although they did say they were taking volunteers, so if Grisha does something stupid or does something that Zeke doesn't like, he may decide to become the Beast Titan. Okay, so there's lots of things answered, and the whole thing with Annie, Reiner, Bertolt, and Marcel now makes sense. Okay, we're gonna go back through this. Everything, it's all, I feel like Kronk off New Emperor's New Groove. It's all coming together. Like it's all coming together, but there's still questions. There are still questions, and I'm so fascinated by all of this. Oh my god, yeah. This all makes so much more sense. I was like, Isayama, yes, okay. Everything makes much more sense. So we got the moment that there wasn't an OP already. I was like, that was 2 episodes ago, Isayama. We had no OP in episode 18, and now you're doing it already again in episode 20. It's too soon. It's too soon. I'm like elated. I'm so giddy right now with adrenaline because there's so much to talk to you all about. When you guys were like, oh, there'll be an episode that'll be over 2 hours. Okay. I'm going to put my Sosuke blanket away, and I will be right back with Whiteboard-kun. Okay. Where do we even start? I was like, when the title was called That Day, I was like, okay, it seems like it's a connection to Shiganshina, which it kind of is. It's basically Grisha's version of That Day is Aaron's version. And it's crazy because we need to talk about this, because there's the parallels of Grisha. Grisha was probably 10 years old, probably about the same age as Aaron was when Wall Maria fell. Aaron was probably about the same age as Grisha was when he lost his sister. And so for both Aaron and Grisha, the Titan, well, it wasn't really a Titan attack. It was really the Marley men. They basically, it was the same thing. Their worlds were turned upside down, and their parents told them all this information and stuff. And God, Grisha, it's like, okay, so Grisha somehow got a hold of the serum from the Marley place, but I assume that we can assume that the royal family that moved with Rodriguez, oh God, Isayama's making me eat my words, because I was ragging on Uri and ragging on this whole thing of paradise, and now it all makes sense. It all makes sense why Uri and them, that is the one question we don't know, and don't spoil me, but we don't know why the original founding Titan left. Why did they run away and run and hide themselves on this island? Why did they do that? Why did they hide themselves away? And then, okay, we're going to talk about the Titans in the walls being the threat, right? We're going to talk about that being the threat. And so, okay, we're going to talk about this. But yeah, so the question is, they just wanted to get away from the conflict. They ran away, and they hold themselves up way to create their own little paradise. God, this all makes so much sense. I was like, it's like you spend 3 seasons with all these questions, and in one 24-minute episode, 80% of them are answered, but like a whole slew of other questions come up. So it's like, what? Okay. Oh my gosh. What? I feel like I'm going to be like that the whole video. So, okay, we have this Marley. Let's just start out from the beginning. All right. So we have this place called Marley, right? We have this place called Marley. Can you see that? Yeah, there we go. So we have Marley, and it's all developed. There's technology. Everybody's wearing suits. It's very much like the 1920s, 1930s. Very modern, very posh. It's even more posh than the state that Grisha and Faye see. Yeah, everything's much more modern. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And they're all wearing the references to World War II, the like in the state of Nazi Germany at the time, and the Jewish population, calling the Eldians basically like a sub-race of people. And it's like, yeah, there's no allusions to like Germany and the Jewish population at all, right? None at all. So I'm going to put the Eldians down here. The Eldians of Eldia. I need to pay attention. There's so much information, and there wasn't enough time to process it. I was like, okay, show, you're giving us all of it at once. I can't imagine the bomb this was in the manga, that you're just like, what? All this now? Okay. And because not everybody in this town, they're not wearing the badges that mean that they're Eldians, and they're all looking down on those kids, and it's very scary. And then this one guy just like shoves him away and says, "Move, you vermin." What? More devil bloods. So I'm going to make a note that they are called vermin, which is very much an allusion to the Jewish population during World War II were called vermin too. But the idea they're called devil bloods. That makes so much sense now because of Bertolt. Bertolt called Armin a son of the devil. A son of the devil, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what Bertolt called Armin. And at the time, I was like, I thought it was just referring to like a demon in general. But no, if Bertolt is from Marley and he was chosen to be the Colossal Titan and to take the Titan powers, he would already have a prejudice against people. Oh my God! The prejudice Reiner and Bertolt have makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense, right? Because you have, tying back to how Bertolt and Reiner in Warrior, and that ties back to Warriors. It all ties back from Warrior that they would have prejudice against the people within Wall Maria, Rose, and Cena because they view them as less than human. And we'll talk about this, but that's why Bertolt and Reiner were like, oh, we have to live amongst all these idiots. And Reiner called them idiots, and Bertolt called Armin a son of a devil. Like, they were just slandering them because that's what they've been taught by where they're from. Validation! So yeah, damn Eldians crawling around as they please. And he's like, it's all right, aren't you used to it? Which is so sad that these kids grow up and they're just used to being trash talked so much. They're just used to all the slander. It's like part of their daily lives. Like, that's so awful. But yeah, nothing like using a real life example in this fictional series, right? Nothing like it, huh? But oh my God. And then they see the airship. They see the airship in the hangar and the lake. And oh my gosh. So it's so big. And yeah, the sad thing is the last kind moment, he went to make his sister happy and she ended up dying because of it. They didn't even turn her into a Titan. They just let their dogs eat her. Like, that's so awful. And then, so that's when this guy and the owl see him. And so I say you're from the Liberio internment zone. So I want to write that down. Liberio. I don't know what the meaning... Don't spoil me if there's some kind of secret meaning behind it. Liberio. Internment zone. So they're just basically kept in the shitty part of town because they're not considered to be of, proper status. Let's see your exit permit. And he doesn't have one. And yeah, the owl. You entered the city without permission, so you either choose labor or a beating. And so, yeah, and the owl, that guy from before. So we can assume that Kruger, that if he's been the owl this whole time, that we don't know if he's the owl at this point, but we assume so, right? We assume that he's the owl, that he's been the informant the entire time. And him choosing, yeah. And Grisha chooses a beating. He doesn't want him and his sister to get sent to labor camps, so he chooses to get beat up so that his parents won't have to suffer without them. And he gives Aaron the beating. And then at the same time, it's just so sad because that guy went off with his sister. Ugh. Oh my God. And the worst part about this is that Kruger keeps him around to see the airship. Eldians without one are sent to their paradise, even if they're kids. Okay, so there's the thing. If they didn't have their armbands on, so the armbands keep them in the city, keep them in Marley. It's just a way to subjugate them. It's just a way to keep them from mucking about. So it's just a way of subjugating them. So it's like, well, you either are under our thumb and under our rule, or we're going to turn you into Titans and send you towards Wal Maria and Wal Rose and them. So it's your choice, even if they're kids. God, so I have so many questions about Zeke and the whole thing with the Beast Titan then. So many questions. Okay, but the sad part about this, what I was going to say, is that he keeps Aaron around because he's like, this is the sad part. The sad part is that and I hope that in the next episode, Kruger explains to Grisha the whole thing with the death. Maybe he won't, but it seemed like in that moment, Kruger kept Aaron around just a little bit longer so that he wouldn't get home before his sister and question where she was. And there's a part of it that's like, okay, was Kruger doing that to spare Aaron from seeing his sister being devoured by the dogs, or what? But he keeps Aaron there to see the ship. Yeah, you might as well see it. And it's so crazy that in this moment you have the owl and you have Grisha sitting next to each other, and it's just fate. It's complete fate that Grisha meets the owl. And so, yeah, I'm not going to write that down. But yeah, it's just fate that Grisha meets the owl in that moment. And it's like, I'm assuming that Grisha's going to take the owl's powers, right? And so that's the funny thing, is he's going to take the owl's powers. And yeah. Okay. He's going to take the owl's powers, and then it's just funny that it's them together. My brain is like on overload, y'all. Oh my God. But yeah, so the following day, my sister is found in the river, and you see like her arm bloody, and there's like bites on it. Yeah. And then there's Grisha and his parents. And then him having to see. And there's all the factories in the distance. There's the factories with the smokestacks and everything. Like, this is just basically 1920s, 1930s modern day in this place, Marley. I showed the girl the Libero gates and went on my way. I'm busy with work, you know. Eldian kids shouldn't be roaming the city without permits in the first place. Yeah. It seems that your son doesn't grasp the place of his people. Yeah, so all these people, these Eldians, it was going so fast, we need to go back and talk about this. But yeah, the Eldians. Shouldn't you be teaching him the sins that your ancestors committed? So that ties to Frida. Frida telling Historia that they're all sinners. That they're all sinners, right? Okay. All right. So that ties back to that your ancestors committed, and ties to Grisha's sin. Okay. It's not enough to make him behave. If that's not enough to make him behave, put a collar on him. And so yeah, as he's telling him that, Grisha says, "I knew that man from Marley Public Security was lying through his teeth." Maybe I've been saying Aaron this whole time. I've been meaning Grisha, but there are parallels between Grisha and Aaron, yes, and you kind of see it in this episode. I knew that man from Marley Public Security was lying through his teeth. So they're like the interior police, basically, for them. He wasn't busy. He was napping on the job. And the owl is in the room. Kruger is in the room with them. But he's looking at Aaron. Or, no, Grisha, I keep calling him Aaron! No! Damn it, Grisha. It's because he's a kid. The Kruger guy is looking not at the guy talking, but he's looking at Grisha. Right? He's looking at Grisha in that moment. He wasn't busy at all. And so then there's this dynamic here where Grisha says, "My mother grieved for losing her daughter," but the father submitted. The father submitted and demeaned himself. And I began to hate that man and my father so much that it made me dizzy. Because yeah, the one man's lying, and he killed his sister, and he's lying about it, and then his own father isn't doing anything. His father's not doing anything about it to stand up for him. He's just accepting it. Right? More so, I cursed my own foolishness. And that look on his face, it's like, it's the look that Aaron had when he found out that he ate Grisha, right? So, okay, then because why not? We're just going to go through the entire history book that Grisha's father decides to explain the entire history for reasons to him. So yeah, okay. This timeline. So 1,820 years ago. So that's a while ago. That's 2,000 years to you in the future. Yes! Ah! We cracked the code. We connected the dots. Oh my God. Okay. Simple math, y'all. Simple math. So basically, and I'm going to put 2,000 years to you in the future. It's happening now. That the 2,000 years to you in the future, the title of episode 1 is referring to Shig and Sheena falling. Yep. Okay. So this is in the past though. So this is 20 years. 20 years. So, okay. Well, it's been more than 2,000 years. We're going to put a little guesstimate sign here. A little guesstimate sign for the 2,000 years. Because it would be more than that. Because Grisha was only like 10. And this says, give or take, 2010 years, whatever. So 1,820 years ago. All right. And we have the picture of the girl with the apple and the Titan monster. Yeah, from the ED. The season 2 ED, I love it because it's so much foreshadowing. I'm sure you manga readers, when you saw that season 2 ED, were like, Isayama, what are you doing? But none of us knew. None of us knew that it would all literally actually tie back. Oh my God. Okay. So then there's this creepy ass monster and the girl with the apple. Yeah. Yep. So our ancestor Ymir Fritz made a contract. Ha ha. So Ymir, that's the importance of Ymir, right? So Ymir Fritz, the original, a girl. Our ancestor Ymir Fritz. All right. Okay. Ymir Fritz made a contract. So that explains so much. That explains why one of you was like, somebody was like, whenever you're done with season 3, go back and watch Ilse's Notebook. I was like, ha 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 ha. So now that I'm almost to the end of season 3, I'll wait till after episode 22, but I'll be watching the OVAs, Lost Girl OVAs, and I definitely want to go back to Funimation and rewatch Ilse's Notebook now that it's officially out, you know. Okay, so Ymir Fritz made a contract with the devil of all earth. So a deal with the devil. Okay. Yeah. A contract with the devil of all earth. So this girl made a deal with the devil and obtained the power of the Titans. Okay. God, this makes so much sense now. This makes so much sense now with Ymir and the Fritz family changing their name over to Reese. Okay. Which we don't know why they changed it to Reese, but it was the Fritz family. Ymir Fritz, the power of the devil of all earth to obtain the power of the Titans. And then the thing from the sea. It showed the woman Titan rising up from the sea. That was Ymir. Okay. All right. Yep. Upon her death, Ymir's spirit was split into the 9 Titans. Okay, so basically, she made a deal with the devil. And then after she died, her power... Okay. So upon her death... Okay, upon death, 9 Titans split her power. Now, here's the thing I want to note about this whole thing. This whole thing is being told from a storybook that Grisha's dad is telling him. We established earlier on this season with Erwin that the books aren't necessarily 100% factual on their side. So I'm like, okay, granted, there's a lot of spirituality there, and there's a lot of supernatural. She made a deal with the devil to become this Titan that could do all these things, and once she died, her power was split in 9. Maybe her power literally did split into 9 different spirits. Maybe. Or maybe she had 9 kids and they each inherited part of her power. We don't know. There's still the question of there's still the question of the king with the 3 children that has not been answered. That part of the ED has not been answered, and I'm assuming that's going to be answered in episode 21 or next episode. I'm assuming that's going to be answered next episode, probably. We don't know, but there's still that image. We don't have that image shown in these flashbacks. Okay. Yeah. Who formed the Eldian Empire. Okay. So there's 9 Titans there, right? And one of them has a hammer. And the other 2, one of them's having the big rock. And one of them is like down on all fours, kind of like the Titan that Ymir was. So kind of like Marcel, maybe. Okay. So, and they formed... Oh my God. And they formed the Eldian Empire. Okay. So that's where that comes from. So this woman, when she died, 9 Titans came out of her. 9 spirits inhabited someone else. There was 9 other Titans, and they went around forming this empire. Okay, which obviously, yeah. And you kind of see the people playing with like knives and spears. Like the technology isn't as advanced, right? Okay. After defeating the great nation of Marley, they ruled over the continent. Okay. So basically, they defeated and ruled Marley. Okay. Supposedly. Good to know. All right. And then, thus began the Dark Ages. And so there were these Dark Ages. Which is kind of tied to like the Roman Empire. I get the Eldian Empire. It's kind of tied to the Roman Empire. And it's funny because you have the Roman Empire and you have the Titans in Roman mythology. And so that's, I'm very curious now if we have the 9 Titans, if they're related to like 9 Roman gods. If they're, well, yeah, no, right? Because, hold up. I want to do a quick search. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, right? Oh, okay. So there were 10 ancient Roman gods. Yeah. Listed Roman. There's lots of 9. Yeah. I want to see if we've got like any, I was trying to say if there's 9 main ones, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. So you have Jupiter, Juno, Mars, Mercury, Neptune, Venus, Apollo, Diana, Minerva, Ceres, Vulcan, and Vesta. Okay, so there are 8, and then you could have the founding one, makes 9, right? And oh my God, yes, because Jupiter held thunderbolts in their hands. Juno's symbols were pomegranate and a peacock. The pomegranate was a symbol way back in episode 7 of season 1. And Mars was the strongest and more fearsome next to his father Jupiter. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to research Roman gods anymore, but I'm getting the vibe that Isayama is drawing from some Roman mythological deities, right? Because you have like the Roman Empire that's talked about, and then you have the Dark Ages, which is maybe paralleling the literal Dark Ages that happened, when throughout Europe. Let's just go on. All right, I like this. The subjects of Ymir called all other races inferior and began to oppress them. So, they are the subjects of Ymir. So, according to the subjects of Ymir, all other races are inferior and would be oppressed. Okay, so that ties to Ilse's notebook because the Titan that found Ilse asked if she was Ymir and said that they were a subject of Ymir. It's like, okay. So that Titan was trying to tie back to see if Ilse was one of them. Okay, that all makes sense. Yep. And the dad is telling Grisha all of this while the mom is like cooking or doing something, like going over all these books to teach him these things. To like, here's our, and I can see why the dad is doing it in this moment. The dad's like, look, Grisha, here's our history. This is why they're like this to us. And maybe Grisha's father, this was his way of like venting or expressing his anger or frustration. He's like, he doesn't mourn his daughter. This is how he mourns his daughter, by teaching his son, like, here's our history. This is why this has happened. And Grisha just is, because Grisha makes the comment later on, he's like, my father had just lost his daughter, and instead he's teaching me this history lesson. The history's going to repeat itself, and we'll get to that. But yeah, they stole lands and fortunes. Yep. So the subjects of Ymir. Okay, stole lands and fortunes. Okay. And forced other races to bear their children and increase their numbers. Well, it wouldn't be a medieval story without some non-consensual sex, now would it? So it forced other races to bear their children. So that's an interesting thing there. I mean, so I've talked about in other episodes, if to be a Titan shifter, if you what would happen if Titan shifters had sex? Well, okay, so if you had a kid, I guess I'm curious to know if you can only become a Titan to begin with if you have Eldian blood in you, if that's a thing, right? Because we'll talk about this when they had him up on the wall, which on the wall, going back to episode 10 of season 2, Isayama planning this whole thing out from the start. Isayama was like, I got this idea. I feel like this episode was Isayama's idea from the start, and they're like, I can't just start out with this. This is a lot. I can't just start out with all of this. I need to build up to it. And so the mystery has been amazing, but this is so rewarding to finally get freaking answers. So assuming that this entire Eldian, so all of these Eldians are essentially through not their free will, but through subjugation, they are all basically the descendants of those original 9 Titans. Awesome. Okay. Their ethnic cleansing continued for some 1,700 more years. Oh my God. So this whole jazz went on for 1,700 years. Which you'd be like, you would think that means at that point they would just control everything, right? Because that's almost 2,000 years. You think they just control everything at that point, right? For 1,700 years, that whole thing went on. Okay. Their ethnic cleansing. Okay. But the once great nation of Marley plotted to subvert Eldia and its arrogance from within. Okay. So Marley came up with a plan, plotted to subvert Eldia, which I'm assuming is the Empire, from within. And here's the thing. This is the crazy part about all of this. So we don't know the circumstance of why Ymir Fritz made this deal with the devil. We don't know why. We don't know the circumstance surrounding it. But I can see from Marley's side at first anyway, why they would want to retaliate against Eldia, because they've had their land stolen, according to Marley, according to these books provided by Marley. That's the problem, right? We get Marley's view on this, right? So we get that, okay? So it's interesting. I feel like, again, we're not given the full context of the story. Isayama's giving us a lot of information, but we're still not getting the full context. We're getting Marley's view on this. Right? Marley's like, well, these are Dark Ages. They raped our people and made us bear their children and stole our lands and fortunes. What could we do? We were subjugated and viewed as inferior. So we fought back. And it's like, okay, you kind of get where Marley's coming from this point of view, right? And so then they say they brought 7 of the 9 Titans under their control. How? Right? So 7 of the 9 under control of Marley. Okay, so we need to talk about that. So if it was 1,700 years later, that would mean it would be 120 years ago, right? Is that what we're suggesting? 120 years prior to Grisha's childhood. Okay. So, quick thing here. We got 9 Titans, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 9 Titans here, okay? So we have the Founding Titan. And they called it the Founding Titan they did call it the Founding Titan in this episode. So the Founding Titan, aka the Coordinate. Got that one. We know about the Colossal. We know about the Armored. We know about the Beast. And now I'm going to call him the Owl. I don't know if his name is actually the Owl. That's just the nickname of Kruger. But we have the Owl. I still don't know what Marcel's is. So we don't know what that one is called. And then there are 3 more. Joy. So one of them is the Pack Mule, right? Oh, okay, no. The Titan at the beginning there, I said it looked like what Ymir was. No, the Titan that was on all 4s moving is the Pack Mule Titan. Okay, so it's that one. All right, cool. So that still leaves two others we don't know about. Oh, wait, the female. The female's one. The female is one. That leaves one we don't know about. Okay. Well, I don't like that. I don't like that we have one we don't know about. That means we've not been shown that last one. That seems like it's a big thing. That seems like it's a big deal. I don't like that. Okay. Okay, so they said they took control of 7 of the 9. So we know that one of them they did not take control of is the Founding Titan, because that one got away, right? So they clearly got control of the Colossal Armored Beast, Marcel's Titan, and the Pack Mule, right? So my guess is, and the female Titan. So my guess is either they didn't take control of the owl, and the owl's been the informant the whole time. That makes sense. Okay, so this one is under their control. So I'm assuming that the owl and the Founding Titan were the two that were not taken over by Marley. That the owl escaped, and so did the Founding Titan. And the Founding Titan sent the owl to go back and infiltrate. That's my guess. That's my guess at this point. The Founding Titan was like, okay, there's 7 of them. We don't want them to come after me, so you stick around and be an informant. I'm going to guess that that's the case. I don't like the fact that there's one we don't know anything about. I don't like that. I don't like that at all, right? Okay. Under their control. And were victorious in the Great Titan War 80 years ago. So, for 1700 years, this whole subjugation thing came on. And then over the course, of 40 years, there was plans to take back Marley from Eldia. Okay. And that's when they gained 7 of the 9 back. Well, hell! Well, this is like shogi. This is basically that game of shogi I was talking about at the beginning here, right? This is basically it. They're just taking pieces and moving them back and forth and taking control of them. Right? So, okay. That all makes sense. All right. And so the 2 that got away. But we talked about at the beginning of this reaction that shogi, the king can switch sides. So the king piece you need in order to stay in the game, right? So here's the crazy part about this, y'all. Here's the crazy part. This whole 40 years, because they said that there was a Great Titan War. A Great Titan War 80 years prior. Or, if we think about it now, just right around 107 years before the start of the series. Because if you look Grisha later than that, 107 years later is probably the end of the war. When the coordinate made the walls and made the people forget. It's all coming together. Right? Okay. Great. I'm glad this is all... It's all making sense now. So yeah, so there's this Great Titan War, and that's when Marley gained back, which you would think, you would ask, you'd be like, well, how in the world could they have gotten back 7 Titans? We just saw it happen 2 episodes ago. We just saw it happen. We just saw where these Marley people, okay, so that means we just saw where these Marley people, and here's the thing, even if the people that are not, birthed from the Titans or Titan descendants, it may have been the children of Marley people that took the Titan powers back, right? Because they had the Titan blood in them, right? So, and you'd ask, how is this possible? Well, we just saw it. We just saw Eren beat Bertolt in human form. He just rode around on the gear. Yeah, I'm sure these people didn't have the ODM gear at the time, but they probably found a way to get a Titan down just to get at least one of them down, like maybe the Pack Mule Titan down, and then take its form and then get, I'm sure that there's a way that it worked out, right? It's not that far-fetched because we just watched our survey core. We just watched 9 people. There's 9 survivors. Oh my God. Okay. Oh God. Yeah. No, there's 9 survivors, right? Let me check this. So your 9 survivors, there is Aaron, there's Mikasa, there's Armin, there's Jean, there's Connie, there's Sasha, there's Hanji, there's Flock, and who am I forgetting? Levi. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean they all have to become Titans. The importance of the number 9, could be that there's just 9 people versus 9 people, right? It may not be that these 9, even though 2 of them already have become Titans, shifters, it may be, because here's the thing, Aaron now has 2 within him. Aaron has both Grisha and the founding Titans. So that's going to throw all of this off. But I think it's hilarious that we have 9 people here connecting to the 9 original Titan shifters. Right? So that's interesting. But the point is, the stuff that's going on in this Great Titan War that happened like 107 years ago is not very different from what we're doing now in the story. We are having it's a World War II. It's Great Titan War 2, right? We're doing this all over again. Except, and that connects to what Zeke was saying. Back in episode 16, Zeke was like, they keep sending their elderly and their children. Okay, we'll talk about Zeke when we get to it, but that line makes a lot more sense now. They don't learn from their mistakes because the founding Titans erased their memories. So he did remember something of what Grisha told him, unless he's researched himself between now and then. But yeah, the whole idea is that the same thing is happening all over again. In 40 years, that's like the lifespan of Erwin. You're looking at someone like Erwin who went from a kid to being the commander of the Survey Corps and fought the Titans his whole life and died shifting this war against them around. It's the same damn thing. History, parallels, all that good stuff. All right. And so then, yeah, we see this idea that the Eldian king at the time erected 3 walls on the island of Paradis. Paradis, yeah. So the Eldian king at the time, created Paradis, or paradise, and erected 3 walls on the island of Paradise. And now Uri's whole thing makes sense. It's why the founding Titan didn't want to fight. They were like, no, we were in this big war. It didn't go well. So I ran away and holed myself up on this little island in the island of Paradise. And I wanted to create my own paradise away from all the destruction and death of my people. Holy shit. It all makes sense. Yep. And so you see the 3 walls, and there it is, and there's that island. And you see the roads leading from this one place where they are, Marley, to the sea. Oh my gosh, yeah, the sea. So it's not that far. No, not at all. They could travel by boat to get there. Okay. And he fled there with many of his people. And our ancestors were abandoned and left behind on this continent. Okay. So there's like multiple cities. Like you see many other cities. You see Marley, but you see other places too, right? Okay. So the king couldn't take everybody. The abandoned people, the abandoned citizens of the king were left behind. Were left on Marley. Okay. Yep. The gracious people of Marley let us live and stay on their land. The gracious people, And that's when Grisha says, my father was talking for someone who just lost his own daughter. And the Marley people let him stay. Okay. Well, they basically enslaved them. They didn't let them stay. he obeyed his master's command. They basically were enslaved. Enslaved by Marley. Which, from Marley's perspective is you all murdered and stole from us and raped our people, so you deserve to be enslaved. That's their viewpoint, I'm sure. Because they view them as less than humans, because they have devil's blood, right? Because they're spawn of the devil. And gladly shamed his own ancestry, much like he was their dog. So yeah, he views his whole entire ancestry as a sin. Mm-hmm. That man was telling lies, Grisha says. And the dad, Grisha's eye color comes from the dad, but he very much looks like his mom. The truth wasn't good for him, so he lied. I love that. I love that line. I love that line. The truth wasn't good for him, so he lied. Huh. And that has so many implications. That has so many implications for so many characters in this show. The truth wasn't good for him, so he lied. You could tie that back to Reiner. You could tie that back to Reiner's whole other persona, the warrior versus the soldier. The truth that he killed Marco, who had been trying to negotiate, wasn't good enough for him. So he lied. He lied to himself. He made himself be the warrior and the soldier personas. You could say that. You could talk about Kenny and the truth. You could talk about Rod Reese and the truth. You could talk about so many different characters that the truth wasn't good for them, so they lied to make it work. And, oh my gosh. Yep. Okay. And then the dad's like, the walls are thin. They can hear you. And he's like, he's the one that took Faye. And the dad is terrified. The dad is like, our ancestors did terrible things. And they believed in eugenics and tried to cleanse. And then he's like, Faye and I are nothing like that. We were just walking around. And he's like, are you eager for all of us to get shipped off to paradise? And that's so creepy and twisted that they refer to it as getting shipped off to paradise, like getting turned into a Titan and sent to this island is paradise. That's what they're referring to. So terrifying. It's so terrifying. Because, yeah, basically, okay. We'll talk about this when we get to the wall and that whole point. But, yeah. So the idea, and Grisha brings up a good point. He's like, none of us did what our ancestors did, so why are we suffering for it? Why do we have to pay for something we had no impact on, right? And yeah, God, and the mom's just she's so scared. And he says, listen, Grisha, it doesn't matter that we're not directly responsible for the sins. But what we are able to do is live humble lives within this internment zone. So it's so frustrating because, yeah, he's like, we don't have any control over the sins of our ancestors, but we can just live humbly within the internment. That's what in the last episode, when Faye was like, I want to ride in the airship, and Grisha's like, we'll never be rich enough to do that. He was suggesting that living in this internment zone, they're never going to do anything but work there until they die. They're just there as free labor, right? They're just there being used by Marley as free labor, I'm sure. So yeah, because that's what they said. They're like, you either stay in here or you get beaten or you're free or you pay with your labor. So it's like, okay. So yeah, there's, God, it's so complicated because yeah, there's the dad suggesting that yes, our generation, we were not responsible for Marley suffering through these dark ages, but our people are paying for the sins of our ancestors in the present time. And so all we can do is just suffer through it. And it's like, and you see that with Rod Reese telling Aaron to pay for the sin. But the funny thing about it is that Rod Reese and Aaron, all of them, they're all Eldians. They're all Eldians. They're all the same people. They're all the same race, supposedly. So it's funny that it keeps getting brought up, right? Yeah, and so the dad's like, I'm begging you, don't lead us all to the same fate as Faye. And that silences Grisha for a while, it seems. I wonder who was truly in the wrong. Was it me or this world? Was it both? Could have been both. Yeah. Yeah, it could have been both because Grisha didn't, on the one hand, Grisha didn't listen to his parents and it caused his sister to die. But on the other hand, the world as it is now for Grisha is also wrong too, because that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't be an issue, right? So it's there's so much. Okay. Maybe it was both. And that's the whole cruelty of it, that there's no right or wrong. It's all depending on perspective, right? But clearly there is no dialogue here between Marley and the Eldians. It's clearly a setup system. Interesting. I wonder if there's anything with Liberio that's important. Don't spoil me, but it just seems interesting. So yeah, and so then it shows, Grisha says, I was ignorant and foolish. So yeah, we're gonna need to switch this sucker around, aren't we? Okay. So we see Grisha older, like he looks like he's in his early, like late teens, early 20s. And Grisha says, I'm going to write. And it shows Grisha doing the labor, like he's doing the labor out there. It shows all them doing the labor of like building the roads and things like that, right? It says, I was ignorant and foolish and getting stuff thrown out of the world, irrational and insane. So Grisha says he was young and foolish, and the world was irrational and insane. And both are wrong, right? He says, I'm wrong because I was young and foolish, and the world was wrong because it was irrational and insane, and it wasn't fair. And it shows the people of Marley like throwing their full bottles of wine, throwing their empty bottles of wine at Grisha and the others there. It's sad. Yep. And so then we see, though, he says, I discovered my own path in life when I was 18. So he's around 18 about this time. It was around that time I was taking over my father's clinic. So his father was a doctor. Okay. So Grisha, when he was 18, he took over the family clinic. Okay. When he was 18, he took over the family clinic and became a doctor. Okay. And that's when he sees, what's that wound of yours? And he meets Greece. This is proof I'm a patriot. So, we have with the Eldians, and that explains why he said at the last episode, I hope that this reaches a fellow patriot. Okay. So we have warriors, which is from Marley. And we have patriots, which are Eldians. Okay. So the Marleys, they were recruiting people at the end of the episode to become warriors. And Grisha is being told that he's a patriot. So it's tying to the Eldians. I'm going to get their name here in a second. Your sister was killed by a man in the Marley public security. We have an informant inside the Marley government. And Greece says there are some things you need to hear. And of course, this has been 8 years since his sister died. And so Grisha has just been bearing through it. And so of course he'd want to know information. Of course he would. Right? And then that's when he finds out, you're kidding me. When I learned the truth of my sister's death, I swore in my heart that I'd show them who the real devil was. And you see the one officer and his sons. So Grisha, I would show them who the real devil was. So Grisha vows revenge. Gee, it sounds kind of like the story of his own son Aaron, doesn't it? Yeah, vows revenge on the Marley police. Just like Aaron vowed revenge on the Titans for killing his mom, Grisha did the same thing for killing his sister. Yep. All makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And I love he's like that my ancestors had done the right thing. Yeah. And oh my God, you can see the one guy there with the bowl cut is the same. Oh my God, the Santa Claus Titan. Yeah. The Santa Claus Titan, he's one of the guys there in the picture. And the other guy is the creepy Titan that was in the cellar. They're all there. Oh my God. And, well, Grease dies. Grease gets killed. But it's there the Santa Claus Titan and the one guy. It's them from the episode 1 through 4. Oh my God. Isayama, you madman. You madman. So yeah, okay. So the symbol of the Eldians is the cross. How funny. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that funny? It's like a star almost. It's like a cross-shaped star, which is hilarious, you know, and the irony is that your entire ancestry is based off a woman that made a contract with the devil, but your symbol is like that of a cross, or at least Grisha's looks very much like a cross. Interesting. So yeah, you got that going on. That he does that in order to correct the world again. Eldia would have to be restored. Restorationists, that's what they're called. But this is, I'm going to put that in a different color. Yeah, so you have the restorationists. And they want to restore Eldia to its glory. To putting them back in control of Marley. Yeah. And that face that Grisha makes, it looks like Aaron's like rage mode face, right? That's what it looks like. All the parallels. Just parallels everywhere. Why not? You know? Okay. And so then, and I like our informant in the Marley government was called the Owl. And I like that in the little flashback there, they do a very clever thing. They make him look like the guy that killed the sister, even though you know that he's clearly not the informant. But they don't make him look anything like Kruger. I like that a lot. That was when the reveal that you know it's Kruger happens. You're like, oh, okay, gotcha. Good to know. Great. So yeah, and then we see he led the restorationists without ever showing himself. And we see all the characters with the plans, and they're all with Grisha and them. This is the truth. So yeah, I still can't believe the Santa Claus Titan and the bowl cut Titan that we saw back in episodes episodes 5 and 6, that it was them. I can't believe that. And then Dinah, we'll get to Dinah. Holy crap. But yeah, so this is the truth. Our founder Ymir awakened the power of the Titans. Okay, so here's where we get into some interesting things, right? So Grisha has this scroll, okay? Has this scroll. And I want to talk about it. So there's the scroll. I'm going to put it over here to the side. I'm going to call it Ymir's scroll. Now, contrary to what the Marley said that Ymir made a contract with the devil and obtained the power of the Titans. They say that Ymir, our founder Ymir, awakened the power of the Titans. So, awakened the Titan powers. All right. So we got that going on. And then there's this scroll here. Cultivated the wilds and built roads. Cultivated wilds and built roads. Okay. And so yeah, there's this scroll here. And bridged the mountains. Okay, and there's 6 stars. And 2 titans. So here's the thing. Okay. So, and bridged the mountains. Which the scroll, it's funny. Because if you look, I'm trying to think here what's on there. There's 2 sets of mountains. And there's a male and female deer. So let's, on the scroll, Isayama was like, how much symbolism can I put in one frame? Let's find out. So we have 2 sets of mountains. Okay. We have a buck and a doe. So we have a male and a female deer, right? You have a bridge that is going across the 2, they're bridging the 2 mountains, right? At the bottom, here's the thing. At the bottom, you have, there's 4 people at the bottom. 4 little people, right? And then you have two bigger people holding the wall up. Got two bigger people holding the wall up, right? And then at the top of the bridge, you have a horse-drawn carriage. You have a horse-drawn carriage, and there's two people on either side. There's like people going either way, right? So there's like two people here and two people there. And I was wondering if there was any significance, if there was 9 people altogether, but there's 10, so it's an even number. And there's 6 stars. Okay? And then above the stars, it's weird. Above the stars, it almost looks like a track, like a train track, but it's red, right? Well, no, that's the scroll. It's red, okay? There's a red track along either ends. It's kind of like the scroll. So, we're going to talk about that, right? Okay. She helped the people prosper and developed the entire continent. Okay. The history we're taught is just a convenient deception for Marley. Okay, so they're suggesting that that Ymir, caused prosperity. Everything's great because of Ymir. And this whole thing about the devil and them being demon blood is just Marley conspiracy. That's all it is. Uh-huh. And then Greece says, impressive, Grisha, you can read this ancient language. And the people there in the room are like, that's right, even if they fool the others, they can't trick us true Eldians. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you can read this ancient language. And then Grisha says, no, I haven't deciphered most of it. And then Greece is like, then how do you know the truth? And he's like, isn't it staring us in the face? I know because I believe in our founder, Ymir. Oh my God, yeah. That blind faith that is not backed by fact. Because here's the thing, Grisha was saying, he's like, well, I don't really know if that's what this means, but I think that's what it means. I feel like that's what it means. It's like, that's so problematic. That is Grisha's sin, is just assuming, and I realize y'all can't read that, is just assuming that that's what all this means. Because, yeah, the 6 stars, I'm sure, here's the thing. Everything's an even number, right? Everything's in equal order, right? There's 3 mountains on either side. There's 2 people. There's the horse and cart that's traveling between one, and the 2 people are facing inward. So, like, they're traveling back and forth. There's 6 stars, 3 on each side. Everything's is equal, and there's like a male and a female on either side, so it's all equal, right? It's showing that everything is in equilibrium, right? So the big question with that though is there's only 9 titans, and I was like, that throws everything off, because if there were 10 titans, it's like, okay, you could see that it's all split even keel, but there's only 9 titans supposedly. So we don't know if he's just looking at that picture and assuming that it means, oh, well, they cultivated the wild. They saw the deer. They built roads, as you can see in this. They bridged the mountains. It's all a very literal translation. And Grisha assumes that all this is true because of his faith. And so that's so problematic. Because that's like Rod Reese. That's like Rod Reese logic. That's tying back to old Rod Reese when Rod's like, well, I have faith. That's tying back to the wall church, right? We have faith in our founding titan because that's just the way it is. There's no logic has to be behind it. It's just, it all makes sense, right? So we're just going to go with it. It ties back to the wall church within Sina Rosa Maria. That logic is so faulty. And it's like, Grisha, you didn't really have any to back it up, but they all believe it. We're the chosen children of God, the subjects of Ymir. So they call themselves the chosen children of God. And that ties to inside the walls, where the interior police and the wall church, they all believe the same thing. The chosen children of God, the subjects of Ymir. And that ties back to our Ymir that we know, when they wanted her to pose as Ymir and said that she was... So she clearly was in the internment zone too, and they were passing her off as a descendant of royalty, we'll talk about that, a descendant of the royal family, talking about that. And they were passing her off as that, saying that she was blood of the king. And yeah, saying she was blood of the king. And so then that's why they all referred to themselves the same way, as subjects of Ymir. Okay. Interesting. And Grisha's kind of doing the same thing like Ymir did. They're just, okay. Yeah. And then the owls sent us somebody. And then in comes Dinah. My name is Dinah Fritz. Okay. And then Grisha, it's like love at first sight. Grisha falls in love with her. Oh, this just got 1,000 times more complicated. So Dinah Fritz. Old Dinah Fritz. A descendant of the royal family. All right. Man, my whole Aaron and Historia ship's getting better all the time, isn't it? Like father, like son. God. Yep. All right. So, old Dinah Fritz, just like Historia, the descendant of the royal family, eh? And Grisha, it's like that look on Grisha's face is love at first sight. Like he instantly falls in love with her. And God, what a tragedy. Isayama, you want romance? I'm going to give you romance, and then I'm going to make you suffer. And she just looks back at him like, oh, hey, I allowed fate to steer my life and followed wherever it took me. So yeah, so Grisha saying that he just followed what he considered to be fate. Which is interesting. That's interesting, that conversation. So yeah, so Grisha falling in love with Dinah, who's supposedly the descendant of the royal family. And it's like Grisha's like the most handsome guy there, so of course she falls for him. Why not? But yeah, so Grisha followed fate and followed it wherever it took me and allowed it to steer my life. Which is not very unlike... It's not unlike Aaron at the beginning of the series, because Aaron was just kind of being like, you know, he by fate had Titan powers, and so he was just following it wherever it steered him, right? In season 1, he's like, I have these powers, so I'm just going to go wherever it takes me. And he kind of was doing the same thing Grisha was. And then there is a clear delineation where Aaron by season 3 starts to be like, no, I don't need to do that anymore, right? And then... So she comes into the fold. The owl sent her. The owl sent her, which is interesting. She was the last descendant of royal blood who remained on the continent. Okay, so she's the last. The last on Marley. Well, until Zeke. Funny that. God, Zeke looks so much like her. The last descendant of royal blood who remained on the continent. Okay. And she provided info about the Titans that only the royal family knew. So she had access. And that whole scene where they're all just sitting there listening to her is exactly like the Interior Police. It is exactly identical to the Interior Police. Like them all just sitting there listening to Frida speak and Uri speak. And she kind of, with the hair, does kind of look like Uri. So is she actually the last descendant of the royal family? Or is that a lie? That's the thing, right? Was she really a descendant? Was she really a descendant of the royal family? Or was that a lie? Did the owl lie? I guess we'll find out next episode if that was real or not. I guess we'll find out next episode because it looked like Kruger was going to talk to Grisha. So I guess we will find out from Kruger if that was real or fabricated. If she was really a descendant or if it's all been a lie this whole time. Okay. Great. This was the break we needed for victory. And I love that the ED for season 2 makes so much sense now. Okay, so we have the star and this portrait. Okay. And there's the 9 Titans. Okay, so if we're looking at this, right? If we're looking at this correctly, I'm going to lean in because we have all the little subjects. We have all the little subjects that look like little Titans. leading up to the 9 big titans, okay? And I erased all that from the other side. But okay, so Ymir, okay. Ymir is the founding titan and the coordinate, clearly. All right. And then there's a very large titan that looks like it's probably like so if you're thinking like Zeus and Hera, one of those deals, and she has like the horn. Okay. Which would connect to the scream, right? So has the horn, which when you blow on the horn, it makes the big sound. It calls the people together. That's Ymir making the scream that could connect all the other titans together. Okay, gotcha. It has a very like Aphrodite look to it, which I really like. But yeah, it has the horn. Then you have a giant titan. And then all the other titans are serving under the Ymir, the founding one, right? So you have the colossal one, which is next, which is the bigger one. And then you also have the female titan that's there too, because it's distinctly female. And then you have the other one, which, here's the thing. Is the giant titan there the colossal titan, or is it the beast titan? We're not sure. Because I'd like to think that the colossal and the female would be together, but the beast titan is the second biggest, so I don't know. But then you have 5 smaller titans, right? You have 5 smaller titans under that. So, and then you have the 5 others. Okay. Interesting. They're making it out to seem like the female, colossal, and beast, or the beast or armored. We don't know. We don't know whichever one. One of those are the big titans, the main ones. I'm gonna guess it's armored, actually. Levi made pretty short work of the beast titan back in episode 17. Made pretty short work of the beast titan. So I'm gonna guess that maybe it is the armored titan with the female and the colossal, and the beast titan is one of the 5 that are lower. Don't know for sure. Don't know for sure. Okay. I'm sure of it. The king took the founding titans into the walls. Okay, so let me back up here. So Grisha says, the king took the founding titan into the walls. Which is correct. And so I want to point out something really interesting in this moment. And that's Grisha's body language. When Grisha slams his hand onto the board and he's like, I know this is what happened. He's very angry. He's very upset. It reminds me a lot of Eren from season 1. And Dinah is just sitting there just kind of patiently and calmly just accepting it. But she's very meek in that moment. It's interesting. It kind of reminds me of Krista back in season 1. I'm not trying to push my Eren Historia agenda. I swear. It's just the parallels are insane. You have Grisha, you have Eren, you have Historia, you have Dinah. You can't not make the parallels, right? But he predicts that the king took the founding titan into the walls. Okay? If we obtain that, we can control all other titans and completely annihilate Marley. So their idea in all of this is to do basically, Grisha's whole plan is to basically be doing what the plot of this show is. So they wanted to take back the coordinate and defeat Marley. They're like, yeah, okay, and it completely. Well, let me rephrase that. Not defeat. Grisha's words are annihilate Marley. It's a little different. Annihilate Marley, right? Okay, I want to see this. I'm sorry, I'm so close to the screen. Okay, so yeah, we've got the 5 smaller. It seems like there's 3 very small titans, 2 slightly bigger titans, and then you have the 3 bigger titans there. The female titan and the other 2 guys, and then of course you have the coordinate in the center. Right? Okay. Okay, so then Greece asks if he could wield a power that absolute, why did he flee to an island? And that's where Dinah comes in, right? So he refused to fight. Okay, and Dinah says, at the time of the Great Titan War, oh my God, I want to comment on this because this picture that pops up is kind of insanity, and I wanted to go through it. Okay, so you have All right, we have all these titans showing up. There's like a titan dog. There's a titan dog. Like 2 titan dogs in the background. They're like huge. What the hell? You've got the one that looks like the pack mule that's sitting down there, right? There's one that looks like the pack mule. There's 2 with spear. Okay, so I'm trying to count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and maybe... So we have 5 in this picture, okay? There's a big chasm. I want to say... Okay, wait. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I don't know. The beasts that are in Titan form that are huge, that's kind of crazy. I'm not sure about that. But there is... Okay, so the one Titans I can recognize on here, there is a female-looking Titan that has a spear, which I'm assuming is the one that Annie becomes. Then there's another Titan with another spear, okay? And then there is a Titan that almost looks like it has a helmet, but it's really small. So, and then you have a Titan that's really huge with the shield on it and everything. And it almost looks like it has like a covering. So maybe you have the Colossal and the female Titan in this picture, and then you could see the Pack Mule Titan because it's on all 4s. And then you have what could be is probably the Colossal Titan. And then there's this one giant Titan that has a hammer. And that was also in a previous picture. So is the Titan that I was like big question marks, it has something to do with a hammer. Maybe. Because I don't know. It seems like why that symbolism? Why that specific element, right? Because none of the Armored Titan doesn't really have anything to do with a hammer. It's more like the shield. And the Colossal Titan doesn't really have anything to do with a hammer either. So maybe one of these Titans wields a hammer like a smith, like a swordsmith. I don't know. But okay. I'm just going to put that out there. But yeah, that Titan has a hammer. It's interesting. And it's not the Founding Titan because Founding Titan has the horn. So, okay. So we go back to this thing where Dinah's like, the Founding Titan refused to fight. We had these Titans on at the time of the Great Titan War, and you had people... But here's the thing. The king abandoned his role of balancing the continent's powers. Oh, okay. Because you have a chasm, and you have 2 sides. You have one side with spears, and one side with arrows. So... Okay. The Founding Titan had gained control of all but 2. Okay. So the king abandoned his role of balancing the continent's powers. So that leads me to believe that the king was supposed to be there for balance. And it looks like there are 2 sides fighting, which I'm assuming are Marley and Eldia, right? And so the coordinate has powers to erase human memory and to take their memory, right? But as Aaron's shown, they also have power to control the Titans. So, I wonder, since we know that Zeke is royal blood, supposedly, if that has something to do with Zeke being able to command the Titans because he's related to royalty, and if he became a Titan shifter and became the Beast Titan, because he's royal blood, he would have power to control the Titans to an extent. Maybe not as much as the coordinate, but to an extent. That could explain some things. Maybe a little bit. And so, yeah. So then we get the people fleeing to the walls, and the walls being made from the Titans. Yeah. And moved the capital to a remote island. So the king moved the capital to paradise. And the walls were filled with Titans. As we found out in season 1, right? So yeah. And then Dinah says that these wretched days we live all began when the king turned away from the conflict. He ran. He ran away. He ran and left them all to suffer. Okay. Round 3. So basically Diana is saying that all of our troubles began when the king turned away from the conflict. So here's the thing. My dog just exploded. Not really, but like just sneezed. Are you okay? All right. So basically, during the Titan War. So during this great Titan War, something happened. The king left for some reason, right? The king left for paradise. All right? Now, we don't know why yet. That's a big question. And it's going to tie to something. It's going to tie... It all makes sense now why Uri was like, we can't fight the Titans. Because, one, the Titans are their own people. So, yeah. So the king was probably like, our own people were dying. And it would make sense then. Let me see here. So yeah, own people dying. There's some reason they grew tired of the conflict. Something happened. Something happened, they grew tired of the conflict. But the problem with everything is that, meanwhile, over in Marley, the remaining Eldians are suffering. The remaining Eldians are suffering, and they blame the king. They blame the founding Titan. So they're like, our whole problem began because the king ran away. And it's funny. I know that we just talked about there were reasons that Zeke ran away, but the fact that Zeke ran away and he's related to the king, it's like, haha. But yeah. So it all makes sense now why Frida and Uri and the founding Titan was like, we don't need to be fighting the other Titans because something happened during this war and the great king, the founding Titan was just like, I'm done, peace out, and left them all. But the problem is they didn't. It's funny because Uri was trying to start this whole thing about the dialogue. Isayama has established this is a big theme of the show, the thing with the dialogue, and Uri striking that with Kenny, right? And the thing of it is that the miracle that was happening, the whole miracle with Uri and Kenny, we talked about this in a previous episode, but this whole miracle thing all worked out because, and I'm gonna tie this to a thing from Sagnorm. Sagnorm, I'm gonna mark this off and tie this to you. But I'm gonna bring this back around. Sagnorm noted with episode 15 that if Armin had the power that Uri had, he could have maybe made Bertolt listen, right? But Bertolt had the upper hand, and so the ball was in Bertolt's court, and Bertolt decided that he was done with dialogue. He would just resign himself to the fact the world was cruel, and this is the way that things are, and that caused the whole conflict starting from episode 15. So that's kind of relating to this. In this situation, Uri had the upper hand and was able to make Kenny listen, and through his compassion and kindness, they were able to start a dialogue, and that was the miracle, right? And so for some reason, it's ironic that Uri started this with Kenny, but at the time when the dialogue was probably needed, the founding Titan ran away and didn't do the dialogue. And because of that, all this other conflict has started. So the thing that's a question is, why did the founding Titan leave? Why did they leave in the middle of this war? Did they just see that it wasn't going anywhere? Did they just get fed up? What was the reason? We don't know that yet. But for whatever reason, they left, took some of their people that they could with them, and the ones that got left behind are now blaming the founding Titan for all the conflict and suffering that they've had. Makes sense. Okay. And then, yeah. And then Grisha says, let's fight. The true royal family held their ground on this continent for the sake of Eldia. Ah, the true royal family. The true royal family. Okay. Okay. Here we go. We have Dinah, and Grisha are the true royal family. I mean, Grisha's not at this point, but he basically becomes it. So, they're suggesting that, oh, the founding titan, so we basically have the Fritzes and the Reeses, basically suggesting that Grisha's words are suggesting that Historia's family deserted. And they're not the true royal family. That Dinah's family is the true one. And Grisha's like, they held their ground. They stayed behind and held their ground for Eldia and didn't just run away. They stayed and fought. So they're the true royal family. Yeah. I love that. And he looks over at Dinah. It's time we bring the founding titan back to them. He's like, my comrades will overthrow Marley and restore this pride of Eldia. So, and God, Grisha's face in that moment. So basically suggesting that they're going to steal the founding titan and then give it to Dinah. My, how this is so warped and twisted. Give it to Dinah. And then from there, they're going to take back Eldia from Marley. Basically saying, we're not going to run away and hide away in our own little world and pretend like all the problems are gone now that we've sealed ourselves away. We're going to steal the founding titan back. We're going to give it to Dinah, and then we're going to take Eldia from Marley. Simple enough, right? And restore the pride of Eldia. And God, and Grisha for being a doctor. Like, Grisha is a leader. And you could make a lot of parallels. God, this recap's going to be a nightmare. This recap's going to be a nightmare. Because we've got Grisha. You could tie Grisha to Erwin in this moment. Grisha's a leader. And he rouses them all up with this speech. This great speech about restoring pride and taking back Eldia. And we're going to fight and get back what's ours. And we're going to stop this conflict. And we're going to win and victory and all this stuff. He sounds very much like Erwin in that moment. I don't think that Grisha, though, we talked about how Erwin put on a persona when he needed to convince himself and the others. You could kind of argue that Grisha's doing the same thing here, but I don't know if that's... Grisha's just using the same type of charisma that Erwin has. I think Grisha does really believe his own hype. He believes his own words, right? He believes his own mission. His slavery to freedom. God, his slavery to freedom is kind of the same as Aaron's was. And is. And then except Aaron is the coordinate. That's the thing. Aaron kind of has a similar sense of freedom that his dad does, but he has already got the coordinate power. So it's like, well, what do we do now? We'll talk about that. So yeah. And in that moment, he looks down at Dinah, and Dinah, she's like in tears, and she's like, you're doing this all for me. And she embraces him. Yeah. Which is funny, because I'll make a note. Historia would not do that. Historia does the opposite. It's funny because in this moment, Dinah, she's very meek and kind of subjective a little bit. And so she instantly falls into Grisha's arms, and she's like, my hero, you're doing this all for the sake of my family and for the sake of the kingdom, and oh, what a hero you are. Meanwhile, back in episode 7 of season 3, Historia's whipping around a bunch of chains and telling Aaron he's a crybaby. It's like a totally different vibe. So yeah, I don't ever see... If you're a shipper of Aaron and Historia, I don't ever foresee this type of moment happening with Aaron and Historia. It'd probably be the opposite, to be honest. Historia don't go falling into anybody's arms but Ymir's. Let's be real. Oh my God. Okay. And so yeah, the next year, the two of us married and were blessed with a son. Mm-hmm. Oh, and there he be. There's that little baby with a full head of hair already. Blessed with a son. So yeah, so Grisha, so basically Grisha was 18 around that time, so Grisha was probably 19 to 20 when Zeke was born. Okay, here we go. I was wondering if Zeke was the nephew or the son, but here's the thing, y'all. Nope, he's the son. Yeah. His name was Zeke. And he's like a child with royal blood. And that's kind of the disturbing thing about it, isn't it? Yeah. That's kind of the disturbing thing, is that Grisha, the first words we ever hear him say about Zeke is a child with royal blood. Because, yeah, the idea is that either Dinah or Zeke would become the coordinate again. Funny that. And I really want to see in the next episode, if we see Grisha going back to meeting Carla, because Carla's not royal blood that we know of. That she's not. So Aaron's normal. Like, he's just an average person. There's no royal blood in him. But yeah, someday this child will lead us all to victory. So that was it. That was it. Okay. So we need to talk about Zeke and Aaron, don't we? We need to talk about Zeke and Aaron, because this is opening up a whole new can of worms. So we have Zeke and we have Aaron. Funny that. Two brothers. One, Zeke is supposedly, as far as we know, royal blood from his mother Dinah. Aaron is not royal blood. He's from Carla. So these half brothers. Okay? And from the start, from birth, Grisha had plans. Had plans to make Zeke the coordinate. Ugh. Yikes. So that's okay. But here's the thing. As far as we know, Aaron, was his plan to make Aaron the coordinate? He does end up doing that with Aaron. He does make Aaron the coordinate. That works out great for Grisha. His whole plan from the start with Zeke, he ends up doing with Aaron. So God, it makes sense why Zeke was all, we both have suffered. I know exactly how you feel. But here's the problem. He kind of doesn't, because Grisha kind of seems to learn from his mistakes the first time around. He doesn't act the same way with Aaron as he does with Zeke. He didn't act the same way with Aaron as he did with Zeke. He didn't. So when Zeke is like, I know how you feel, Aaron. We're both victims of our father. But he said, here's the big thing. And we'll talk about this when we talk about Zeke's betrayal. He says, we're both victims of your father. Zeke does not acknowledge Grisha as his dad. No. And that's a big difference. Zeke does not associate with Grisha. And part of that, I wonder if Zeke has been indoctrinated by Marley so much that they're like, oh, Grisha was just using you from the start, but he's like, Zeke, like, Grisha's not your father. But Aaron says he was the son of a special man. That's the big irony there. Aaron says he was the son of a special man and bystander. He's like, I'm special because I was the son of a special man. But with Grisha, he viewed Zeke as special because of Dinah, not because of himself. Grisha's like, you're special because you're the son of a royal, you have royal blood. That's what makes you special, not me. So it's funny, Grisha does not refer to himself as special. He thinks Zeke is special because of Dinah, but Aaron refers himself as special because of Grisha. Okay. Oh, God. I don't even want to think about how long this discussion's been so far. I'm not looking yet. No. Okay. This child will lead us to victory. And then as time goes on, people change. As the world around us rapidly advanced. And there's Zeke. So Grisha points out that people change. And technology advances. And that's when the photograph comes into play, right? And that's funny. It shows technology advancing. The photographs, they had all the pictures from the books and stuff on the walls during the rally. And it was all drawings and illustrations. And now they have the photos. But yeah, and there's the picture A turning point came for the restorationists. Aha, and they said, listen up, Eldians. We will be selecting warriors from various zones around the continent. So, here's what we don't know, and I'm assuming that's also what we're going to find out from the owl, Kruger, in the next episode, is why were they gathering up Eldians? So right now, Marley, meanwhile... I also want to make note, Isayama, why you called this continent Marley, and we just had a character named Marlo die, who is connected to a character named Marco that died, who is connected to a character named Marcel that died. The rule of Mars. Why? So Marley was gathering up Eldians, which leads me to believe that you have to be an Eldian to become a Titan. That has to be a caveat. You can't just be a Marley member or some other race or sect of humanity. You have to specifically be a descendant of Ymir. You have to be a subject of Ymir to become a Titan to begin with. So they're gathering from various continents warriors. Yep. From various zones around the continent. From various zones. We'll put zones. Meaning that Bertolt, Reiner, and Annie and Marcel were from different zones. Okay. And said the Marley government needed subjects of Ymir to serve as vessels for the 9 Titans and become Marleyan warriors. If chosen, their family will be granted the title of honorary Marleyans. Okay. And so they have Dinah in hiding, right, during all this. So the vessel, the power in the vessel. So the power of the Titans is the power, and the vessel is the person that's inhabiting it, that's hosting it. Okay. All right. So they're basically like, we'll grant your people special privilege if you donate your family member to the cause. For the 9 Titans. And they were like, ugh. And they get kind of freaked out by this. Yeah, Dinah and Grisha get freaked out by this. But they say for the 9 Titans, but they only have 7. So I think that's a thing. Okay. According to the info from the owl, the reason Marley is making a move is to prepare themselves for a struggle for resources as military technology advances. Oh, okay. I was trying to read this in the moment. Though Marley leads the world using the power of the 7 Titans, the end of their dominance is nigh. Aha! Aha. Okay. Okay. So, go back. Struggle for resources. All right. As military technology advances. Though Marley leads the world using the power of the 7 Titans. Okay. So, wow. We're getting into like some major world building. So... Okay, I'm not going to erase all of it. So basically, Marley over here, Marley versus the world. And then we're just going to say that little island of paradise is over here. All right, we're going to say the island of paradise are there. So basically, what's happening is technology is advancing across the world. And Marley had been a superpower. Because of the Titans. But technology is advancing across the world. And so, though Marley leads the world using the power of the 7 Titans, the end of their dominance is nigh. Basically saying that throughout history, for so long, they've been using these 7 Titans to stay a world superpower, but now technology is advancing where these other places around the world are catching up. And just the power of those Titans alone isn't going to be enough because we're seeing airplanes, we're seeing these ships with guns and everything. So a massive cache of fossil fuel lies beneath paradise. So funny this. So there's all this fossil fuel, supposedly. What? You mean a country would go to another country and start a war based on fossil fuels? I've never heard of such things. Never in my life. Never in my life. So they're basically suggesting that Marley wants to go to the Isle of Paradise, where the Wall Kingdom is, and they want to attack it just to get the fossil fuels. Isayama, you madman! You absolute nutter! Okay, and gone are the days they can ignore it. So basically, Marley's been like, they've let the Wall Kingdom be fine for all this time because they're like, well, it's okay. It's all good. We're just going to ignore them. We've got 7 other Titans. We don't need the other 2. But now they can't ignore it because the other places in the world are catching up to them and they're out of options. Okay. But the King of the Walls left this warning behind 80 years ago. So there was a warning that the king left. Okay. If you ever interfere with us. And this is the shot from season 2, the ED. Oh my God, I love it. And so now it makes sense that it makes sense now because, okay, it makes sense that the whole line of people migrating across the desert were the people moving into Shiganshina, Rose, and Maria. Da-da-da! Okay, so the king had a warning. The king's warning. The king's warning was that if you ever interfere with us, the millions upon millions of Titans in the wall will flatten the entire earth. So basically, this goes back to the Titans in the walls. And it's saying that if you mess with us, and if you don't leave me alone, then all these Titans in the walls that have been hidden there this whole time, I'll unleash them, and they'll flatten the entire world. They'll basically overrun everything and destroy all of you. So, that they'll release the hounds. Release the Titans from the walls. And we know that the Titans are like 50-meter Titans. They're huge. So yeah, if you had millions... Now here's the thing. Do they really have millions of them? Or I thought we estimated there'd be like thousands of them, which is still a lot. Thousands of Titans is a lot to worry about. But yeah, and there's the imagery there. Okay. As long as this threat exists, no one dares to confront them. Okay. Gotcha. The thing is, the Marley government has the same goal as us. Oh God, so now it's like, you've got our Wall Kingdom. You've got Paradise. I like that it's Paradise. I like that it's called that. That it goes back to Uri. I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So now you've got, on one end of the spectrum, you have the, oh gosh, I just had them on here. Restorationists. You have the restorationists that need the coordinate. And then on the other end of things, you had Marley. That need the coordinate. And you know what the sad thing about all of this is? You know what the sad thing is in all of this? You have Fritz, you're the founding Titan that's in these walls. You've got one group of people that want to claim the coordinate back to restore the pride of their people and restore their people to how they were before they were subjugated and free their people from slavery. You have that faction. And then you have these guys that just want some coal. They don't care about the pride of the Eldians. They don't care about any of that. They just want the fossil fuels that are under their land. They just want to raid them from their land and take their resources and then leave them. They just want the coordinate because if they get the coordinate, they can control the Titans within the walls and keep them from running amok. That's the only reason they want it. Isayama. So yeah. To infiltrate the walls and recover the founding Titan. Yep, that's the whole goal. So what do we do? And then, yeah, there's the Santa Claus Titan. Holy, I want to go back and rewatch these episodes now to see if I can spot the other Titans, but there's the Santa Claus one. Holy crap. And he's like, at this rate, Marley will get it before us. If that happens again, Eldia won't see the light of day again. So yeah, I mean, there is an added stake that yes, they are there to take the fossil fuels. That's part of it. But if they get the coordinate, then all of Eldia is going to be subjugated and they're all going to be enslaved. Basically. So there's more to it than that. It's not just the fossil fuels. The fossil fuels are the excuse. The fossil fuels are the excuse. But the added bonus is enslaving the rest of Eldia. Okay. And then Grisha is like, what do we do? And he's like, there's still a way. No, there's still a way for us to win. We'll have my son Zeke. And then, oh my God, you guys, the toy that he's playing with, it's an ape. It's an ape like the Beast Titan. The toy is an ape. Isayama, what are you doing? And he's playing with the soldiers and the Beast Titan and the horses. Oh my God. This is what I'm talking about. Like Zeke, y'all said Zeke has some issues. Zeke, and I kept saying, I was like, Zeke acts really childish. And I know we're probably going to go back to it in the next episode or two because we have 2 episodes left of the season. I know we're going to go back to it. But the idea is that no wonder Zeke acts like childish all the time. He kind of is probably stuck. He's probably traumatized from his parents' death. And is thinking that he's like kind of reverted to this kid-like state. Oh my God. So yeah, the whole thing with the Beast Titan, the monkey toy, and the soldiers, it's just like the episode with Shiga and Sheena. It was a perfect game. Isayama! Oh my God! So basically they were going to use Zeke. They were going to indoctrinate him and be like, we're going to sneak you in. It's like Hunger Games. We're going to sneak you in as our informant, and you're going to become one of these Titan shifters and go and take the coordinate back. Which the irony is, he does that anyway, just for Marley. Which I know we're going to get more next episode, but that's just my assumption. Become a Marleyan warrior. And then this shot is probably going to be the thumbnail because it's so horrifying. The cycle of it all. And Grisha seems to realize the cycle in writing this memoir. Grisha seems to realize the big problem here is that there's Dinah with her hand on Zeke's shoulders, and there's Zeke being fed all this information in the book, and there's Grisha feeding him the information. And it all makes sense now why Grisha's father was doing this to Grisha back when he was a kid. His father was so angry that they'd killed Faye that he gave all this information to Grisha almost as a means to instruct him on how things were. And I'm sure that even though his dad acted like he was like submissive and stuff to them, there's probably a part of him that wanted Grisha to know like the history of their people, to know that they were subjugated and to know like their oppression. And Grisha's doing the same thing his father did. Grisha's doing the exact same thing to Zeke. He's got his hand on Zeke's head, and that stance is very powerful. It's very dominating. Like he's dominating Zeke in that moment and making him listen and making him look, right? Everything the Marleyans were telling you is wrong. But more so than anyone else, you have to obey exactly what they say. So they're just telling him all these orders, like all these rules. They're like, everything they told you is a lie, but you're going to infiltrate and this is what you're going to do. And he's so angry. And then Dinah's like, you're the one who will save Eldia from disgrace. And then, God, that face. That face that Zeke has. Okay, I understand. It's horrifying. That face is horrifying because it's this little kid that's being told all this that didn't want any of this. They're basically like, we're going to make you go off and become this monster and eat another monster and become and go be this warrior. We're going to make you do that. So I hope that's okay. Hope your childhood was fun because now it's gone. It's like, yeah, that would mess a kid up. And in Grisha's case, Grisha had his sister to fall back on. So Grisha had something, he had that seeking revenge. Grisha had his sister to avenge. So when his dad was doing all that, Grisha sought past that and was like, no, I want to get revenge on my sister. Zeke's an only kid. Zeke hasn't lost a sibling or a family member like that. So then pushing all this on him, Zeke has no resolve to do any of this. There's no reason for him. So God, it makes it that much more tragic. Yeah, Zeke is a victim in this sense. Because he had no conflict with the Titans, with anything. Eren did have conflict through Carla's death, the biggest irony of all ironies. Holy shit. But then Grisha also added to it. Because in the wildest of coincidences, in the weirdest of ways, God, in the weirdest of situations, Eren did have conflict that was caused by Dinah. But his conflict was to avenge the Titan. So he was kind of like Grisha in that sense that he did have a reason for doing what he was doing, right? But then Grisha added to it. Grisha's like, you'll avenge your mother. You'll do this, do that. And it's like, it's like you're starting to do the same thing you did with Zeke, just a little bit, except the difference is that Grisha ended up sacrificing himself, right? Grisha ended up taking the coordinate powers and he sacrificed himself to Eren. So there's something to be said with that. I want to hear some more. But yeah, Zeke just going along like he had no choice. And you see and again, that cut of Zeke, and Zeke has his mother's hair and his mother's eye color, but he very much looks like his father. That cut of Zeke looking like just shell-shocked and like a zombie saying, okay, I understand. It mirrors Grisha and it shows you mirroring it. And that's what kind of tipped me off in the last episode, or back in episode 18, was that when you saw Zeke with the face and you saw Grisha, you were like, that kind of looks like Grisha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if anyone, I should have known how terrible the sin to besmirch one's beliefs onto your children. And that's one of the big themes of the whole show, right? I'm out of space, but the sin to besmirch your beliefs to your child. How terrible of the sin. And that's Grisha's sin, because he did the same thing with Eren. He besmirched his beliefs that Eren was the only one that could stop. He's the only one that can stop the Marleyan government and the Marleyan warriors. He's the only one that can do it, Eren. So I'm going to give you the coordinates powers because you're the only one that can save us. Now, Grisha, he lived out his mission through Eren that he wanted to with Zeke. He wanted Zeke to become the coordinate and to take back Eldia from the Marleyans. And now he actually accomplished it by giving the coordinate powers to Eren. But the question is Eren going to do that? Is Eren going to fight the Marleyans? Is that really going to be what's happening? I don't know. We don't know that yet, right? But the sin, Grisha acknowledges what Rod Reese told him. The sin was, which it's so funny that in the book, Grisha acknowledges that the sin is to besmirch your beliefs onto your children. And he ends up doing it again anyway. Which he didn't at first, right? Until, Shiganshina fell, he didn't do it. Because Eren was constantly wanting to be part of the Survey Corps, and Grisha was like, and he didn't tell him. Here's the one thing Grisha didn't do. Grisha with Eren, he didn't sit Eren down and teach him the history of their people. He didn't do that. He didn't do like what Erwin's dad did. He didn't do what like his father did with him. He didn't do what he did with Zeke. He didn't tell Eren the history of their people because he was inside Paradise, and maybe there's a part of him that thought, like Uri, that as long as they stayed there, they'd be okay. And he wouldn't have to tell Eren all this. And there's also consequences of telling Eren all this, right? So, which he also learned there was consequences of telling Zeke all that too. Zeke ratted him out. So that's probably why. And when he says, I still don't quite know exactly what Grisha meant by until you know the most important thing of all, I can't give you the basement key. So I don't know if he was waiting until Aaron became the coordinate, if he still had that agenda. And he's like, until you become the coordinate, I can't give you the key and explain what's in the basement. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah. It just ties right back to it. And then poor Zeke, not as a child of royal blood, not as the hope of restoring Astoria. And God, Zeke, like his face. He just looks so tragic. No, not as a child of royal blood, not as the hope of restoring Eldia, but as my son Zeke, had I ever thought of him that way. That line too. Yeah, he's like, did I ever think of Zeke as just my son? Or did I think of him as the descendant of royal blood, the savior of Eldia? No. He thought of him as that, but he didn't think of Zeke as his own child. But he thought of Aaron as his own child. So the mistakes he made as a father the first time with Dinah's child with him, he tried not to make the second time. And then in his panic towards the end, I think, unless we find out otherwise, he did make a few of the same mistakes again, but it's under a different context. It's in a totally different context. So if you're like, well, Grisha didn't make a mistake the second time, I'm like, well, he did the same kind of things, but there's different context to it. And then, yeah, in any case, Zeke chose to protect himself and his grandparents. Yep. And then he writes, in exchange for turning in his foolish parents to the Marley public security. And God, the way Grisha and Dinah looked down on him. So Zeke chose to protect himself and protect his grandparents and turned in his foolish parents. And yeah, the look that Dinah and Grisha give him, they just look disgusted that Zeke did this. And Zeke's grandparents are just crying with him. God. But yeah. Oh, so Zeke was just a child. And the thing of it is, it ties back to what Bertolt and Reiner said. We were just kids. We didn't know anything. God, that ties back to that line. Oh my God. Because yeah, Bertolt and Reiner are like, we were just kids. We didn't know anything about this war. We didn't know anything about the people inside the walls, about this war, about all this. We were just told we were helping out our own hometown, our own people. This is insanity. I absolutely love this, but it's absolute insanity. So, oh God, we're only at the halfway point. This is a problem. Information available for public disclosure. Humanity outside the walls. Though humans who live outside the walls look no different from us and speak the same language as we do, their civilization appears far more advanced than ours. However, they view us who live inside the walls as a race of devils that have committed terrible sins. Yep, okay. Whoa, buddy. So yeah, fun times. Fun times in old Marley. And then we're here. The desert. The desert! Oh God, it ties back to the OP, the desert. Ties back to running in the desert. So here's the thing. Christopher Peterson noted like a few episodes back about Ymir running in the desert. And I didn't comment on this before, but I thought about it. I always thought that Ymir running in the desert and then turning back into a human was metaphorical. I thought that moment where Ymir wakes up and she's naked and she's in the desert sand and there's the Aurora Borealis around her, the Aurora Borealis deity around her, and she's turned back into a human. I thought that was all metaphorical, that it was all symbolic, that it was all in her head. Like she ate Marcel and inside her head she saw herself in the desert and she was looking up into the sky and saw the Aurora Borealis. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was very symbolic because when she turns into the Titan she has a robe on, right? Which you could argue the robe disintegrated while she was in Titan form. You could argue that. Fine, sure, whatever. But, fine, sure, whatever. Okay. But yeah, so there's that. But that may not be the case. It could be. It makes sense now. We'll talk about this with Bertolin, that wasn't the case. So yeah, Grisha and them, and he's got some facial hair, so they're clearly, and here's the wall. This is the wall that Ymir's people from Ilse's notebook from episode 10 of season 2, this was the wall they were taken to by the Marleyan people. That's it. That's the wall they were taken to. Oh my God. They were taken in by boat across the sea. Yep. They were taken by boat across the sea to this little port at the edge of paradise. They were taken by boat there to be shuttled off into paradise and sent along there. So at the edge of the beach, there's all this sand. At the edge of the island, there's all this sand in the sandy desert, right? So the restorationists are taken out of the equation, basically, in this. The restorationists are taken out of the equation. It's literally now it's just Marley versus the rest of Eldia, right? So you have basically the island, right? And you have the 3 walls. They established it's right there in the middle of paradise. And then you have the forest area. And then you have a desert, which is technically the beach. Technically the beach, right? Okay. And then there's a port. And this is where they've been transforming people into titans. God, this all makes sense. And then over here, you have Marley. You have Marley, and they just been crossing over the sea. Just crossing over the sea. And they take their prisoners. It's like they take them. It's almost like this is a prison island. Really. It's like it's Alcatraz or like a prison island, right? Except there's paradise in the middle where everybody's safe, right? But they've been taking people over here, like Eldian people over here, who are either deserters or aren't doing right. They've been taking them over there, turning them into titans, and sending them to the wall to try to maybe break in and destroy humanity. Oh, God. This is crazy. This is just... Right? Okay. Yeah. So that's what they've been doing. The whole thing with Ymir in episode 10, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. It's been going on for a long time. And then the penal colony of Eldia traders, Paradise Island. And there is the owl. God, he's so threatening. I love Kruger. I love his character already. I'm like, Kruger, I'm already on board with you. I may change my mind immediately next episode, but I'm on board with you now. The penal colony of Eldia traders, Paradise Island. This is where you'll serve your life sentence. Oh my God, that's insanity. That's insanity. So yeah, it's a prison island. It's a prison island. And you serve your life sentence. That's not symbolic as a monster. And here's the thing. They don't age. The Titans, Ymir wandered around for 60 years. And nothing didn't age a day. As a pure Titan, that is. Yeah, as a pure Titan. So they know what it's called, right? Okay. All right. Shit. And they cut off his fingers. They cut off all their fingers. And they asked him who the owl was. And he wouldn't tell them. And the thing is the owl's in there watching him the whole time. The whole time the owl's watching him. Just see if he'll talk. And he doesn't. Yeah. And then they cut off another finger. And the owl watches him the entire time. And he just screams. So they did like what they did to Pastor Nick. Funny, all the parallels, right? All the parallels. Just everybody's shitty. But all the parallels. So just like with Pastor Nick, and just like with Sonus, they cut fingers off, and it didn't work. And then it's just the same way again. And that's where, and so Grisha remembers seeing Kruger from being as a child, and then sees him again, and he recognizes him. He says, I've met you before. When I was little. And he's like, oh, you remember that? As if I could ever forget what happened that day. Oh! And it's like that day for Grisha. It's crazy because that day for Grisha sparked his entire life. That was what he was a slave to. Grisha was a slave to that day. And what happened to his sister, it sparked everything. And the same thing happened to Aaron. And the sad part is that the Marley people are kind of responsible for both. The Marleyan people, they're the reason Grisha got spurned into what he did. And the Marleyan people, by sending Bertolt and Reiner and all them over there to the walls, they did the same thing to Aaron. So it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. And the owl is so unmoving. The owl just doesn't even care. He's so unmoving. He's like, he just stares. It's so creepy. And then the grease guy is like, please don't kill me. And he's like, not a Titan. He says, please kill me, not a Titan. And then that's when the grease guy's blindfolded. He's blindfolded because they're going to turn him loose and let the other Titans eat him. Yeah. And he says, why in the world did Zeke betray us? He's your son. Oh, and they took the blindfold off. I was an idiot to entrust everything to you. The restorationist, Dinah, too. Say something. And Grisha's like, I'm sorry. And God, that parallel. It's like when Aaron told Bertolt, he's like, this is all your fault. What can you say for yourself? And Bertolt's like, I felt sorry for you. Like, what do you want me to say? I'm sorry? Oh. And then Grease, yeah. Why did we let a guy like you lead us? And then like Eldia's finished. And we got they're like, we got a lively one. You're free to go. And they just kicked him off the wall. And yeah, he just tumbles away. Oh my God, this was just cruel. And they're like, run straight north. And if you're lucky, you might make it to the wall. But that's so far away. Okay, Major Gross. Major Gross. We're going to write his. Of course his name is Major Gross. Of course it is. We're going to write his name down because he dies. Gross dies. Yep. Okay. And he's like, oh, it's your first time here? Yeah, we let him run off. If we let him run off, the Titans we're about to make will chase him down here and leave this area. It won't be long until he's eaten. Isn't that right, Kruger? And Kruger's like, yeah, it's him without a doubt. And then that's when Grisha just realizes that guy is the guy that killed his sister. As fate would have it, leading them all back here. Oh my God, he's the one who killed my sister. And he's like, we've got a bunch to do this time. Let's get a move on. And so it all makes sense now where the Titan serum is from, right? Because they've got the 7 Titans. They've got 7 Titan shifters in their possession. Marley does. So they've been getting the Titan serum from those Titans. It all makes sense. That's why they have so much of it. Okay. And then Grisha, rightfully so, he's like, you guys, and yeah, and they all do it, and they kick him off. Oh my God. Yeah. And then that's it. Yeah. The Titans we saw from the beginning. Yeah, it's God, it's so many of the Titans from the Titan that ate Thomas, the Santa Claus Titan. There's the one Titan from episode 5 and 6. God, Isayama, how dare you? How dare you? All of these. And then they went to find Grease. Yep. Uh-huh. And then, yeah, can't you see it's Grease? And then Gross is like, Kruger, he's so loud, I can't stand it. It's annoying. And then this was the tip-off, okay? This is the tip-off that Kruger was the owl, was because he said, I still want to interrogate him a bit. And I was like, why would you wait until now on the wall when you're about to execute him? Why would you say that? I was like, that's such a weird red flag, right? Continue on without me. Oh, and that's when they bring Dinah. What a waste. If only you weren't a devil. Meaning like, oh, I could get with you if you weren't a devil. And God, this was hard. This sucked. This was awful. Oh my God. This is so awful. He says, why are you here? I told them everything I know to like spare her life. Oh my God. I told him everything there is to know. And he's about to say she's a royal, and that's when Kruger gets him down. So these guys, Gross and them, did not know about Dinah being royal blood. They didn't know, but Kruger knew. Oh my God. Oh my God. They didn't know. They didn't know she was royal blood, that she actually was royalty. Shit. Is he trying to cover it up? Yeah, and oh God, that stare. Kruger looking at him like so intensely, like, shut your face. I wonder, looking back, Kruger, silence. I wonder if Kruger is related to the royal family too. I wonder if Kruger's related to the royal family too, because he has the blonde hair and blue eyes as well. Shit. Oh, man. I'm waiting till tomorrow to watch the next episode, but oh my God. Yeah. Shut him up already. And she says, Grisha, and then no matter what form I take, I'll promise to come and find you. God, you'll make a great Titan couple. God, oh my God, this is so painful to watch. God. And then no wonder Aaron woke up, because he looked down and saw Dinah was the Titan, the smiley Titan, the Titan that ate Carla. She never stopped looking for him. This is the part where Aaron wakes up. Yeah, because what a nightmare. What a fucking nightmare. Pardon my language. But yeah, so Dinah became the Titan that ate Carla, who was the other wife of Grisha. And then Aaron had the other Titans kill Dinah. So essentially, she wandered paradise looking for Grisha, found his house, and I wonder if she sensed Aaron because he was Grisha's child, sensed him, ate Carla instead, wandered around looking for Grisha again, and finally met up with him in Aaron's body, and then Aaron had her killed. Okay. Sure. So yeah, Aaron wakes up, and Mikasa, I love Mikasa's hair is like all over the place. She's like, oh shit. Yeah. And Aaron, of course Aaron's crying because he's like, I just had a freaking nightmare. And he's like, oh. What is this? Who am I? Yeah. Who am I? You're in the stockades. You and Mikasa are serving time for insubordination. Yeah. So they're serving time for insubordination, like Hanji hinted at. And of course, Armin, because he's a patron saint and their best friend, is watching with them. And I love Mikasa's hair. She's like, Aaron, were you having a nightmare? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I was. And she's like, I love Mikasa's like, oh my God, you were? And Armin's like, you just said, who am I? Yeah, you did, and you're crying. So yeah, he's like, I just feel like I woke up from the longest dream ever, but it wasn't a dream. He knows it's his father's memories. And when he says, who am I? That's the thing. It's like he's not only got his own memories, he's got his father's memories in him. He has his father's memories. He has the Founding Titans memories. It's not all of them, obviously, but enough, right? So, God, Aaron. Just now I was connected to my dad's memories. And then him crying, that Titan. It was you. Dinah. So, oh God, I can't believe it was her. I can't believe it was her. And yeah, just like Rodriguez turned into a pure Titan and went on. So the thing that still is weird about all of this is that what we don't know for sure is that my question in all of this still is that episode 1, when Eren was under the tree having the dream, right? When Eren was under the tree having the dream, he had those flashes and like those visions that he had. And at the time, he had not ate Grisha yet. So why was he having those flashes? That's the only thing that still doesn't connect to all this. But everything else since then, like the fact that his father's memories are kind of merged with his own, is terrifying. And it kind of, God, it makes so much sense. The rage mode Eren from season 1 makes a lot more sense now if it was connecting to Grisha. It makes a lot more sense, right? Yeah, because if Grisha was part of him, that makes a lot of sense. God. That would be the most nightmarish thing. She's running after Grease and forgot all about you. I guess she fancies that guy more than you. God. I've never felt more bad for Grisha than I have in this moment. Because, yeah, his wife, the woman that he loved, the mother of his child, she just said those words that she'd go find him wherever he ended up, and she just got turned into a Titan. The last royal descendant from Eldia and the Marley side got turned into a Titan. She ends up dying. So yeah, Historia really is the last. So basically we are establishing that Historia is it. Historia is the end-all be-all according to this story. According to our narrative. If our narrative is correct, since Dinah is dead, Historia is the end-all be-all of Fritz blood. She is the last living direct descendant of Ymir. Wow. And he's like, shut up. Yeah, and then the gross guy is like, did you say something? And he goes, it's you. 15 years ago, the one who fed my 8-year-old sister to the dogs was you. So, okay, at this point, in the story, okay, so we're getting a timeline. We're getting a timeline edit up here, right? So at this point, Grisha, he was around 18 when he joined. So 15 years ago, his 8-year-old sister, Faye, he would have been probably around 10 because he looked a few years older than her. We'll say 10. We'll just say 10 to be an even number. So he's 25. At the time, Grisha is 25, and Zeke, that we know of, is probably around 5. So yeah, Zeke is around 5 years older than Eren. So yeah, Zeke is, or 7 years older than Eren. So he's like 22 or 23. Yeah, he just has a beard, so he looks older. The War Chief Zeke. The War Chief Zeke. Oh my God. So if we're doing the Roman gods, rule of Mars. Mars is the god of war. Marley, the War Chief of Marley. Oh my God, it's Zeke. Ah! Shit. Okay. Yep. And then Grisha, he's like, you fed my sister's dogs. You killed my wife. It was you. And he's like, psh. He's like, let me get him off your hands. You can head back to the ship. Huh. And they're like, what's all that about? And they're like, the sergeant major wants some time to have fun, rookie. It's best to leave it at that. Oh my gosh. And this part here, I love this. He's like, Kruger, are you done interrogating? Let's have that lad dance for us. I'm like, dance? He's like, I remember you now. We'll not make you into a Titan. I'll turn this one to a 3 to 4 meter Titan so that you can fight him. Yeah. And he's like, why would you do something like this? Do you get enjoyment? I love this dialogue. Do you get enjoyment out of people getting eaten by Titans? And he's like, why do you ask? Because it's interesting. Do you think that's a little crazy? Yeah, this whole rule about Marley. Do you think that that's a little crazy? But you know, people actually want to see cruelty. And the way he says this, as he's drawing the syringe, the way that he says that, his eyes are so cold and emotionless when he says people want cruelty. So you can be a slave to cruelty just as much, right? He's like people want cruelty. Peace can be such a wonderful thing, but something about it is lacking. Oh my God. Losing touch with life and death, perhaps. So in his eyes, at peace, you lose track of life and death. So this answers my question about a lot of things. One, inside the walls here, nobody's been turning people into titans that we know of inside the walls. It's all been Marley. Yeah. And the serum that's inside the walls, to our knowledge, is the one that the royal family took with them, or that Grisha gave them that technology. I'm going to guess that maybe Grisha gave them that technology, right? But the royal family's always had it, so I'm guessing that perhaps the royal family took some with them, you know, just to save for whenever they were passing the powers down, right? He's like, so yeah, he's suggesting that in peace times you lose track of what life and death is like, right? And that we should live thinking this might be the last day that we've got. That's the only proper state of mind for living things. So you constantly need a fear of death to live. That ties back to Kenny's logic. That ties back to Kenny's whole logic, because Rod Reese was like, if you just give us what we want, you can go live a life of peace and be in peace the rest of your days. And Kenny was like, that would be so boring. I would die of boredom. Like, that's not that you know, if you're just, is that even living, right? What's if you have no fear of death whatsoever, is that even living, right? You're just being complacent. So it's that kind of Kenny, it's that logic, right? God. I'm ready to accept it when that day comes for me. That's because I faced this cruel world head on and deepened my understanding of it. And he just gives the guy an injection as he's saying it. Oh my God, as he's saying it. Oh, my tea's gone cold. But yeah, it's the idea of facing this cruel world head on. It kind of ties to Erwin's speech, being like, yeah, we're going to die one way or another, so we might as well face this cruel world head on, right? Oh, God. But, and he says, yeah, it was educational having my son's dogs eat your sister. Right? God. It was educational. And Grisha's like, do you not feel any remorse? He's like, I get what you're saying. If something like that happened to one of my sons, it would crush my heart. You poor things. If only you weren't Eldians. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's the whole Marleyan attitude, right? That's the whole thing, that you all have to die. Oh my God. That's it. That's the thing. That's Bertolt's whole thing, is that I love you and I feel sorry for you and I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you all have to die because they're Eldians. Oh. Yeah. And Grisha's like, are you freaking kidding me? And he says, look, that's your people's true form. All it takes is some Titan spinal fluid and you turn into giant monsters. So yeah, the serum is just spinal fluid. Yep. That's your true form. So suggesting that yeah, because the Titan forms, if you think about it, if we're talking about the whole devil of all earth thing, the Titans are really, they just look like mixes between like a demon and a human, right? So the idea is that like you're all born with the capability because your ancestor made this contract with the devil. You're all born with this capability to become these monsters, but we just have to inject some of the Titan, while they're in Titan form, we take the spinal fluid out and we inject some into you and you turn into this monster. But the pure Titans, they aren't conscious. It's like a nightmare state constantly because it's not done properly, right? Because they're not the original 9, right? They had the actual power from Ymir, right? These are all like manufactured versions, right? They're just, it's activating that instinctual ability to become a Titan, but because it's not the actual spirit of Ymir, you don't retain any of your intelligence like a human. You don't retain what was Ymir, right? You just get the Titan part. Yeah. Yep. The world needs to wipe out every last one of you Eldians. So that's why they've been keeping them this whole time. Marley's been keeping the Eldians in these internment camps and everything so that they can slowly turn them all into Titans to go attack Paradise and attack the coordinate, eventually breaking through the gate. And now they've been doing that for years, and now that they're running out of time to get the fossil fuels, they're like, well, we need to expedite the process. We can't sit here and wait for centuries for y'all to eventually break down the walls. We need to go in now and infiltrate. And that's why they did Bertolt and Reiner and all of them. Okay, all right. That's the wish of humanity everywhere. And I'm sure that what he's implying, that's the wish of humanity. Humanity wants to wipe out the Eldians. But the funny thing is that we established from the timeline that the Eldians, most of them were actually people from around the world that were just oppressed and forced to turn into Eldians. They were forced to become part of the Eldian Empire. It's like what Grisha said to his dad when he was a kid. He's like, why are we suffering from the sins of our ancestors? And he's like, that's just how they view things. It's like, yeah, God. And it connects to so much in modern day. All I could think about when he was saying, like, well, if only you weren't Eldians, we wouldn't have to do this. All I was thinking about is World War II and how the Nazis had basically said that, oh, if only you weren't Jewish, we wouldn't have to kill you and keep our race pure. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, God, Isayama, taking all this from history. And Grisha's like, what did you... And he's like, of course I don't feel remorse. You're the murderers here. What were you restorationists planning to do to Marley? And he's pushing it right back on Grisha. He's like, well, you're the murderers. You were going to try to kill all of us. So, of course, I don't feel remorse. Because you were just trying to do that to us. And it's like, oh, my God. Yeah. Yep. And he's like, don't you feel any remorse? And he's like, it's a lie. I know the truth. Our founder, Ymir, helped people prosper on the continent. He's like, yeah, whatever. Since your history is so grand, go down and share it with your friend down below. So, yeah, it just... At that point, the Marley guy, he's like, I don't care about your past. He's like, I don't care. You were going to try to kill us. And so that's why we're doing this. So I kind of get now why the Founding Titan left. He's probably like, peace out. Have fun not being a part of this. Because I'm sure that Uri's ancestor, the Founding Titan, saw the writing on the wall. And he's like, these two sides are just going to keep fighting one another. And I just need to get away. Right? The problem is they didn't stop fighting. It still kept going on. And the conflict isn't resolved. Running away didn't solve the conflict, right? It's kind of like Armin back in episode 17. Armin could have ran away, but he didn't. He faced the conflict head on, and it kind of stopped the conflict with Bertolt, essentially, by doing that. And Uri and Kenny, Uri didn't run away from the conflict. He didn't kill Kenny. He hit it directly head on. And the funny thing is, Marley, just like Bertolt back from episode 17, Marley has the upper hand in this. They have 7 of the 9 Titans. They have the upper hand, but they don't want to create a dialogue with the Eldians. They don't want to try to reason with the Coordinate Titan or understand why they left or what Ymir's thing was or anything. They don't care. They just want them all gone. And to them, that'll solve their problem. But like he said, like Gross says to Grisha, he's like, the peace... You lose your track of life and death, and you want cruelty, according to him. So it's like, okay, well, eventually if you get to Paradise and you kill the Coordinate, you take all the fossil fuels and stuff, you're not going to be satisfied by that logic, and you're just going to find another group to oppress and do the same thing to. So it's like, okay. Yep. And that's when he's about to shove Grisha down, and Grisha fights it. And he's like, hear that? Your sister is calling for you. And Grisha's like, damn it. And that's when the owl pushes him down. Oh, God. I freaking love Kruger already. I may change my mind by the end of the next episode, but I love him. Yes. Freaking yes. Okay. Yep. And that's when that's the Titan that was looking in the cellar back in episode 6. Oh my god. Yeah. No, that wasn't the Titan in episode 6. That was the Titan that ate Mina. It's the Titan that ate Mina. God, I need to go back and rewatch this series. Ah! Yep. And then he takes off the hat. Oh god, and yeah, that eats him. Mm-hmm. He's like, is it really that interesting? He's like, and he tosses the hat aside. I'm the owl. And Grisha's like, shit. Remember this, Grisha. A Titan uses their power like this. Oh my god! Yes, with the knife. Oh, honey. And then it comes down, baby. Oh my god. It comes down like an actual bolt of lightning. Oh my god. And Grisha watching. And yeah, he crushes the ship. And he's got the green eyes. And the green eyes and the form that looks like Aaron's. Ah! The form that looks like Aaron's. Yep. Crushes the ship. And they're all going to fire at him. I'm sure he's going to wreak havoc. But here's the thing. Grisha's in the same clothes that he was in. God, this episode. Grisha's in the same clothes that he was in episode 11, Bystander, with Keith. So clearly, I'm going to guess that Grisha makes his way. There's still a lot of questions, and I think I've erased this board 19 times this evening. Have I? Probably, but we're going to erase it one more time, because we got one more thing with Whiteboard-kun to talk about here. Holy crap. I feel like in doing this now, the recap may not be as long, because I'm talking so much about it now. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's all good. We will just address all this now, and then the recap we'll just do like a little abbreviated, abridged version. It'll be wonderful. So, okay, I'm not going to go through the timeline again, but essentially, we've got some bunch of different things going on. So we have Marley, and Marley, they were oppressed by the 9 Titans of Eldia. All right. And then they gained 7 for themselves and defeated Eldia. And in the process of all this, the founding Titan escaped. Escaped with one more, which I think is the owl. It's either the owl or the founding Titan escaped with another Titan. We don't know that. I'm going to put a question mark. Or. And now, Marley, to get resources, is making a final push to get the coordinate and destroy the Eldians. Because essentially, as long as there are Eldians existing, then there will be Titans. That is basically the premise. And the whole thing about this is that Ymir Fritz made a deal with the devil, supposedly, and became the founding Titan, and then split into 9 Titans, and they became the Eldians. Ta-da! And then the founding Titan that's left is holed up in a paradise. Right? Okay. Easy enough. So, you have the owl, Kruger, who I believe is going to give his power to Grisha and send him to go find the coordinate. Now the question is, if he sends him to go find the coordinate inside Paradise, I wonder if Grisha was going to go look for Dinah. If Grisha would go look for Dinah. But the problem is, even if he found Dinah, it wouldn't work because Dinah's looking for him to try to eat him. And it's not gonna work. So it's kind of sad. The tragedy of it all is that even when Grisha goes to the other side of the wall, to the Wall Kingdom, to Paradise, he can't be with Dinah because there's no way, right? That's the sad part. And he tries to make a new life, and he falls in love with Carla and gets married to her and has Aaron. And it's like, take two. Here we go, second chance. And there's that concept of the second chances, right? There's this concept of a second chance. That Grisha gets a second chance inside. It's kind of like with Ymir. When Ymir became a Titan shifter, she got a second chance at life, right? And Grisha kind of does the same thing. He gets a second chance at life with Carla and them. And Carla, when we saw Carla back in Aaron's flashback, she had short hair too, kind of like Dinah. That's really sad. But here's the crazy thing. So Grisha has passed on the power to Aaron. The power of the coordinate. The power of the coordinate comes from the Reese family, which was connected to Dinah, who Grisha is also connected to, and they have Zeke. And so then you have, oh God, no, Historia's not the last royal family. It's Zeke and Historia. They're the last two, right? And so then you have Historia. So Aaron is not of royal blood that we know of. No. But Historia and Zeke, that's our war. The last two remaining Eldian royal family members are Zeke and Historia. And Zeke's half-brother is Aaron. It's like a Shakespearean nightmare, right? I feel like this is a Shakespearean play gone wrong. So yeah. So then we have right now, so on Marley's side, I'm assuming we can call this Marley's side, we have Zeke. I'm going to guess that Zeke has drank the Kool-Aid, the Marleyan Kool-Aid. That Zeke is a Marleyan warrior. So we have the warriors. Zeke is a warrior, and I think he's drank the Marleyan Kool-Aid, and Grisha is all evil and everything, which, issues. And then we have Reiner. We have the pack mule. Okay. Now, on the Eldian side, the patriots, if you will. But they're not really patriots because they're not restorationists, but they're Eldians. So on this side, we have Aaron, who is technically two Titans. Technically Grisha's and the coordinates. Annie's over there against her will. We'll just put her in there. Armin is over there as the Colossal Titan, right? And that's 6, 7. So, and we don't know where Ymir is. That's 8. And then we have the Mystery Titan. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. So we have the Mystery Titan. Teehee. Okay. Yeah. So we have Zeke, Reiner, the Pack Mule, Aaron, Annie, Armin, and we have Ymir and the Mystery Titan. So right now, since we don't know what's up with these two, it's pretty much equal on both sides, right? Which makes me curious. So here's the thing. Aaron, Founding Titan coordinate power, super important. Super hardcore. Makes sense. Annie, has the hardening power. Has the hardening armor. Really combative. Very agile. Very fast. Things like that. Armin is the Colossal Titan. Case in point. Zeke is the Beast Titan. Makes total sense. Strong. Smart. Blah, blah, blah. Reiner's the Armor Titan. Has armor. Super strong. This thing carries you around. What does the Pack Mule do? What? That's like the lamest one of the bunch. But it's funny because some of you were commenting on Patreon. You were like, did you ever imagine that the Pack Mule Titan would be the one that was least affected in the battle? And I was like, no, I did not imagine that. But I'm just like, you have like a Colossal Titan, a coordinate, the owl, you have the Beast Titan, the Armor Titan. You got the pack mule. You got the cart titan. I'm like, somebody lucked out to draw that straw. I'm just saying, you know. And then we don't know what Marcel's titan was that Ymir is. And we don't know what the mystery ninth titan is. So, yay. But okay. So, we have established our end game, kind of, in a way, somewhat. Not really, but we've established our central conflict of this whole show. It's really between the Marley people and the Eldian people, right? It's them versus them. If we're going to establish a duel, the Marley people, they want to end humanity or end the Eldians, right? And they just want to, at this point, destroy Reiner and Bertolt. But this is going to make things more complicated, right? This is going to make things a lot more complicated because I talked about this having a common enemy, right? For Marley, for the Marleyan people, it's pretty simple. It's literally the Eldians are the enemy. It's like their version of the Titans, right? Which it is the Titans. For them, it is Attack on Titan, you know? Seriously, the Marley people are like, we want to destroy all the people that can become Titans. That's our goal. And it's like, oh, that's a very clear objective. It's a very clear objective. They're like, we just want to destroy all the Titans. And it makes sense now while Reiner and Bertolt were like, we only got a short time left on Earth. We might as well take advantage of it. So their thing was probably, they've probably been indoctrinated that they're all sinners. That they're all sinners, just like Grisha's father was telling him. And Reiner's probably like, we're all sinners. And the Marleyan people have entrusted us with this mission. And when our mission is over, we're going to die because we're going to age quickly because we're Titan shifters. We're going to end up dying. But in the end, they're like, we're gonna spare another generation from suffering. It ends with us. Okay, now Zeke's words about it ends with us make a lot more sense, right? Because they're like, we're going to take back the coordinate and do this. But here's the question, though. Because at this point, Zeke's grandparents are probably dead. They're probably old. They're probably either really old or they're dead. The question is are they going on with the Marleyan government? Or are they kind of like the restorationists? It would be the most ironic thing if Zeke ends up becoming like a restorationist himself, even though his father wanted him to do that years ago. It would be the ultimate irony if Zeke just wanted to become a restorationist, because they said it ends with us. And Reiner said back then, during Warrior, he told Eren, he's like, if you come with us, no one else has to die. Meaning that maybe it is a three-way war again. Maybe it is. You've got the Eldians in paradise, right? You have Marley, right? And then you have this warrior crew. And if they take back the coordinate, they're going to attack Marley. Maybe it is like the restorationists. Maybe it is. And maybe Zeke ended up over time becoming part of that group, not realizing that's really what his father wanted him to do all along. That would be the ultimate irony, is if Zeke ends up becoming part of like a rebel militia group and attacking Marley. That would be the ultimate irony, is that Zeke ends up attacking Marley, which is what Grisha wanted from the start, and he doesn't really realize that that's what the cost. But I don't know. I feel like he says it ends with us. I'm still a little conflicted, because on the one hand, that yes, Zeke and them are working with Marley to overthrow, take back the coordinate, destroy the Eldian population there, and end it there, right? Maybe that's it. And then they'll get rewarded. Who knows? But I'm like, the Marley government, wouldn't they just destroy you? I don't understand. So there's that end of it. And don't spoil me. Don't be like, well, it actually is it. And I'm like, I don't know yet. But then there's also the chance that they could be like, well, once we get the court. But then Reiner's words to Eren, where he's like, if you just come with us, no one else has to die. I'm like, okay, well, were they really going to take Eren back and kill all the people anyway, and it was just a lie? Or were they going to take Eren back and then attack Marley to get rid of them? And then everything would be hunky-dory. Because I'm guessing Reiner wants to just go back to his hometown, which is just back to his people, back to where he's from, because it said they were from different zones. So I'm guessing Reiner just wants to go back to wherever his home is and see his family and say, I did my mission, I did what you asked me to do, now let me go home. But the thing of it is, I'm like, if you're a Titan shifter, they're not going to let you go home. They're going to keep using you. So I have talked for about 3 hours. That seems legit. Seems legit. Y'all told me I would get to 3 hours. And I was like, that'll never happen. Yeah, oh my God, I can't believe I talked this long about this. But this was, my brain isn't melted. I am ecstatic. I am like on the edge of my seat, elated, because finally we've gotten answers. There's a story. There's a cohesive narrative. It's all making sense. It's all ridiculously complicated because, of course, it's ridiculously complicated. It's Isayama, but it all is making sense now. Everything is tying together, and it's tragic, and it's beautiful. The only other thing, there are two things I want to note. Zeke, and I'm guessing this is tying to the coordinate powers. Zeke, and I do have some notes from that I didn't get to in this that I want to talk about before we go. Zeke can control the Titans. And I'm assuming that has something to do with the fact that he's royal blood, right? He's royal blood. And the royal family members, like even Historia, could tap into the memories and seemingly have a little bit of control because she was a royal family. She could erase memories. Kind of like that, right? Zeke kind of has that power too. It's funny. But Zeke can't control all the Titans, the other Titans, like Eren can, because we talked about that lightning bolt that goes in between. The one thing I'm also not sure of is how the royal family members that's memories aren't affected, how that works. The Ackermans, where do the Ackermans come into play in all this? Are the Ackermans tied to this Titan that we don't know of? Is that a thing? We don't know. The Ackermans and the Eastern Clan are a big question in all of this because their memories aren't affected by the coordinate. Why? And aside from that, why when Levi and when we've seen with Mikasa specifically, when she was like spurned into action, there was that lightning bolt, there was that electricity, just like the Titans. But they're Ackermans, so what? How does that go? How does that work? Are the Ackermans? I want to know more. Are the Ackermans one of the original 9 Titans? Are the Ackermans descended from one of the original 9, and that's why they're not affected by? It could be that the Ackermans, one of the 9 Titans, like their actual blood is an Ackerman. I don't know. That part still confuses me. I want more info on that, and I don't think we've got it yet. We've not reached that point, but Kruger, I friggin' love him. I love him already. I want to know more about him. I'm excited that we possibly will get his backstory next episode. That's pretty exciting. But yeah, the other notes that I had about these episodes, God, it's almost midnight when I'm recording this. The other notes I have for this episode are, let me see here. The idea about Marlowe dying. We'll talk about Marlowe dying. Jason T. Fry noted that Marlowe thought that Hitch was asleep while he was dying and that she was sleeping peacefully, but she actually was awake, waiting, like, she was awake, so she was probably thinking about him. Tears. That's really sad. Also related to Marlowe is the idea that Christopher Peterson noted that Marlowe died happy and was, like, caught in the dream. And that Mikasa has tried Marlowe's approach twice now. Like, in Season 1, Episode 7, and then in Season 2. So, Mikasa is just... It just shows how pointless of a death it was with Marlowe's character. He was such build up and he just died. And it's like Isayama was like, nobody's safe. And yeah, war is filled with pointless death. Get it? And it's like, yep, get it. So there's that. And then Nathan Hardy establishing the pack mule as the MVP of the warrior crew. True. Who would have guessed the pack mule Titan would be so important? And then Nathalie. Nathalie's got a comment on here, and we've got a couple others here on too, but and they're mainly about Bertolt. But I really like this. Nathalie made a comment that Marco, and this again, Nathalie, you made me like cry my eyes out because you're like, Marco has great hearing. If he didn't have great hearing, he probably wouldn't have died. Because he wouldn't have overheard Bertolt and Reiner talking. But because of his great hearing, we established back in Distress in that OVA that Marco has great hearing, and that just lends to why he dies. Isayama thinking of these things ahead of time. But also noting that it's funny that Bertolt's not the end game. My, how far we've come! At the start of this whole series, I thought that defeating the Colossal Titan, would be the end of the series. I'm like, that's going to be our final boss, is Bertolt. Back before we knew it was Bertolt, I'm like, the final boss will be the Colossal Titan. Nope. Not a chance. So that's really funny. But yeah, not what we expected from the start. Not what we expected from the start at all. No siree, Bob. Okay. The other thing is that there's a couple more things. Eren defeating Bertolt in human form is a callback to season 1 and all of that. Bertolt, I like that so far in most of the series, Bertolt had sandwiched this up until episode 19, right? Bertolt was sandwiching the entire preamble in the series to this moment. Bertolt started us off in Shiganshina, and he ended his reign at Shiganshina again. Bertolt's life was sandwiched in the series from episode 1 of season 1 to episode 18 of season 3. And now it's Armin's power, so it's like cool beans. But yeah, so there's that. That part was pretty cool. I liked that. Coentrell noted that Bertolt and Mikasa gaining their resolve. Mikasa gains her resolve that even despite this cruel world, there is beauty. Bertolt has resigned to himself that there is none. And that kind of ties to what Gross was saying. Gross was like, well, it's just a cruel world, and we need to know the difference between life and death to survive and live through it. And Mikasa was like, no, there's beauty in this world. It's cruel, but there's beauty within it. We need to protect that beauty. And it's like, it's just like Bertolt's resolve kind of seems like it's connected to the ideology in Marley. And then Mikasa's is connected more to this paradise that the Founding Titan created. I can't believe I'm doubting Uri. I'm doubting my opinions of Uri and the Founding Titan even more. Fun times. Great. So yeah, Joanna Quaint noted that Jean telling, I love this comparison. This will probably be my last notes on here. That Jean telling Connie and Sasha not to cry about Reiner's death when he's hit by the Thunder Spears, because they killed him, is tying to Reiner telling Annie not to cry over Marco because she killed him. So you've got two sides that are both like, well, we're responsible for these deaths, so what's the point of being remorseful about it? And that ties right back to Gross in this entire episode. When Gross is having that conversation with Grisha, he's like, why should I show remorse? Like, it's not going to change anything. I killed them. Why do I have the privilege of showing remorse when I'm the one that killed them? He's like, you're murderers. Why do you have remorse? And it's like, So it's tying back to that conversation. Like Isayama, the best thing about this is Isayama showing all sides of this battle. They're all suffering from the same ideologies. They're making the same decisions. They're having the same consequences, the same reactions. It's like, Isayama. But yeah. Like I said, my brain is not melted, but I am elated because now we have answers. There are still lots and lots and lots of questions, but I feel like somebody just completed like 75, 80% of the puzzle, and they were like, here you go. I feel like I've been working on this puzzle for 6 months, which is what I've been doing watching this show since July of this year. So it's been about 6 months I've been watching this show, and I've been slowly building this puzzle from the outside in, and I've been like, I'm getting closer. And then somebody just walked up and they're like, hey, I made this in 5 seconds. Here you go. Here's the puzzle. And you're like, I've been waiting for this. So if you've listened this long, first of all, thank you. If you've listened through my ramblings for 3 hours, thanks. My righteous anger indeed. Just if you're wondering about this t-shirt, my best friend got me this for Christmas. I put it up on Twitter. I love Brian David Gilbert. He's a YouTuber on here. And my best friend just found this online and was like, here you go. And I'm like, it's the most ridiculous thing I own. And I love it. And it's fitting for this episode. It is fitting. So yeah. Thanks, Isayama. I've waited all this time for answers and you didn't disappoint. And now that Eren's tapping into these memories, I'm curious to know also how much of all of this is in the books. I'm assuming most of it are in the books that they've taken back with them. So I'm curious to know what's going to happen with that, how that's going to go, and what we're going to do with that. So yeah, fun times. But in any case, I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Thank you for listening to me this long if you have. I'm very, very excited for next episode. I'm probably going to watch it tomorrow because I'm recording ahead and because I can't wait. I want to know more. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And I'll be back next time with the penultimate episode of Season 3 of Attack on Titan. It's only the penultimate episode. That's all. That's all. But in the meantime, stay safe. Take care. And I'll be back next time with episode 21 of Season 3 of Attack on Titan. Bye.